Chapter 77. Seeing this, the newspaper reporter's eyes widened and a chill ran from his spine to the back of his head. Who was this person? What was this person trying to do? Soon, the mouse arrow on the screen gave him the answer. His friend had just answered the call and asked him what had happened. However, his hands were trembling and his phone fell. He watched as the mouse arrow turned left and right slowly as if it was torturing him on purpose. Soon, the arrow found the sign to cancel the account. At this moment, he stood up suddenly and shouted anxiously. He grabbed the screen like he was crazy and shook it with all his might. No! No! Stop it now. The things on the computer table were all flipped to the ground by him. His face was pale and he smashed the screen with all his might, but he still saw the dialog box appear. Are you sure you want to cancel your account? Then, that arrow directly clicked, confirm. F***CK. The bespectacled man with a head full of feathers smashed the computer. He slumped onto the chair and rubbed his hair with all his might. His eyes were bloodshot. His account could bring him at least a few million yuan. But now, he had lost his account because of a few 100,000 yuan. The bespectacled man even had the intention to kill someone and his face was filled with despair. He had worked hard for 4 to 5 years to build up his account. Within half an hour, several big accounts that used the same article to spread rumors about the Qin family and Bei Yunj received the same greeting. At first, no one took it seriously. In the end, dozens of big accounts disappeared. Then, in the group chat of these big accounts, someone started to crazily at their friends who had not been blown up, telling them not to repost the things that were at the top of the trending searches. It was not worth it for the sake of popularity. It was not worth it to lose one's account. On the other hand, Qin Youjiao's fans and netizens who were about to fight to the end suddenly felt the abnormality at the top of the trending searches. They found that most of the big accounts had disappeared into thin air. What was going on? Many people could not help but be curious. They clicked on the list of people they followed and looked for the big accounts they followed. They found that several big accounts that they had followed before had disappeared. As for a few marketing accounts that had foresight, it was a good thing that they left a side account. However, they were all making strange movements. I'm sorry, Immortal, I was wrong, bye-bye, let me go, brother. I apologize. I shouldn't have eaten the melon blindly. I'm turning over a new leaf. Stop staring at me. Fortunately, I have a SMUF account. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see me again. Don't ask me why my main account is gone. If you ask, I deserve it. From today onwards, please pay attention to social news and artists' works. Don't simply gossip. Heartbreak, the netizens and Qin Youjiao's fans were speechless. What was going on with these bloggers? Why did he look like he had been educated by society and had turned over a new leaf? After that, many people clicked on the first entry with doubts, wanting to see the comments inside. However, he discovered that it had been completely emptied. The netizens who saw this scene inexplicably felt that danger was approaching. They carefully exited the hot search and asked the bloggers what was going on. However, Qin Youjiao's fans refused to believe it and scolded her even more ruthlessly. But in the end, as soon as he sent it out, the phone automatically froze. Chapter 78. What's wrong with her? Is her phone broken? The girl who had just left dozens of comments for Qin Youjiao was instantly furious. Their fan group had even photoshopped a picture of her. They were prepared to scold that illegitimate daughter to the point of death. But at this time, she actually dropped the ball. This was too strange. The girl suppressed her anger. Seeing that the page could not be moved, she had no choice but to turn off her phone and restart it. However, a few minutes later, the girl restarted and found that she could not even click on her social media app. It was as if she had entered a period of censorship. Did I see a ghost? The girl was in disbelief. At the same time, thousands of people had the same feeling. Not to mention the netizens following the trend, they could not even post their idols on the leaderboards. What kind of strange situation was this? However, some people gradually regained their senses. The netizens who had entered the censorship period this time seemed to be following the trend in a certain trending topic. Suddenly, a scary thought appeared in their minds. They kept dispelling it, but they could not help but think about it. Although they did not want to believe it either. But what happened today was indeed inexcusable. There were many people who had been defamed online, but why did it have to be this family? Soon, as more and more people questioned them, the small accounts with verified accounts posted their updates again. F***CK, let's not say anything. Be careful with your words. I, who have 4 phones, have already tried it. As long as you don't include a certain word, abbreviation, or photo, you'll be fine. I'm a fan of Qin Youjiao, so I'm brainless about unconfirmed things. I apologize for this. But are you crazy to ask me why I can't post a photoshopped photo? Question, I'm no longer a fan. Don't bother me. It's disgusting. I'm the last account. Whoever scolds the Qin family in my comments section again, I'll copy the Diamond Sutra and send you to hell tonight. Smile, everyone was shocked to see that the marketing accounts that had lost their main accounts seemed to have turned over a new leaf. They frequently reposted some positive social news. Did these entertainment industry marketing accounts blow up their accounts until their brains weren't clear? An hour later. #censorship period #, internal testing system failure # and other terms made the headlines. Everyone wanted to discuss it, but they did not dare to go too far and could only say a few words. Son, this is really the first time I've seen such a big scene. Even capitalists aren't so ruthless. Where did this deity come from? I really want to eat melons, but I can't give up a melon field for a melon. Heartbreak. I've disconnected from the internet. What are you guys talking about? Ha 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 ha, this is the first time I feel sorry for a keyboard warrior. Which big shot did they offend to be taught a lesson one by one? He's definitely a master in the computer field. But honestly, there are no more than 5 people in the country who can do this. However, they were all people who had achieved success and fame. I don't understand why they would do that. There was a lot of discussion online. Similarly, the company's technical personnel who were dealing with this matter were also suffering. Since 2 hours ago, people had been calling their customer service non-stop, asking them what was wrong with the system. However, they couldn't find anything even after repeated inspections. At this moment, their higher-ups were also discussing this matter. Actually, when this trending topic went up, they also felt guilty. After all, the victim of this cyber attack was a normal person. Chapter 79. However, it just so happened that a celebrity had caused a scandal during this period of time and the higher-ups wanted them to find a way to suppress it. Therefore, they turned a blind eye to the affairs of this ordinary person. After all, she was just an illegitimate daughter of a wealthy family. However, no one expected that the hot search of an illegitimate daughter would end up in this state. What do you think we should do? Have you found out who the culprit is? The management leader took a deep breath and massaged his temples. It was not that they had not screwed up before, but this was the first time they screwed up like this. It was scarier than capital. We haven't found out yet, but we can roughly guess who it is. The people from the technical department swallowed. Who is it? Those people from the National Computing Institute, the head of the technical department took a deep breath and said. If it was really those people, their company could not afford to offend them. After all, these people were at the top of the academic world. They were on the global news and were respected in every country. The management leader's expression did not look too good. They? Are you sure? In fact, they were partly responsible for this matter and it was difficult to pursue the matter. However, who would be able to take this lying down after such a huge mess was created? However, if it was really those people, they had to take it lying down even if they did not want to. Apart from them, where else can there be so many high-end talents in the country? The head of the technical department smiled bitterly. At the same time, in the corridor, Bei Yunj called Marcus. Not long after, Marcus picked up the call and asked, overwhelmed by the favor. Miss Pei, why do you have time to look for our computing institute? Usually, he was the one who called Bei Yunj. I seem to have caused some trouble. Bei Yunj raised her beautiful eyebrows and her tone sounded harmless. Deputy Director, what should we do? Marcus was speechless. He should not have had any expectations of Bei Yunj. Marcus took a deep breath. What happened? He was a calm deputy director. It was okay. He could handle it. I made the headlines, Bei Yunj said gently. However, when Marcus heard this, he almost fainted from anger. He knew that this person dared to hack the website of their computing institute. There was nothing she could not do. However, afterward, when Marcus asked about the cause of the incident, he gradually became furious. Their precious member, who was treated like a golden nugget, was actually hacked by the entire internet. One had to know that in their country, talents like Bei Yunj were heavily nurtured and protected. This kind of bad news would be monitored by the higher-ups and would not allow these protected targets to be harmed in any way. I told you to immigrate, but you didn't. Do you know how well we treat our researchers? Marcus said angrily. Bei Yunj's attitude towards Marcus was not as cold as before. Instead, she laughed. Although this guy was usually carefree and undisciplined, when it came to this kind of situation, he was so protective that it made others speechless. Eating from the bowl while thinking about the pot. Marcus said eccentrically. Bei Yunj was speechless. She suspected that he deliberately learned these words to diss her. Chapter 80. There were more and more rumors about the headlines outside. The top computing institute in the country also knew about what happened today. The 5 or 6 suspects were also suspecting each other. In fact, a few minutes later, everyone immediately locked onto the target. Was it you? Was it you? You little brat, how dare you smash other people's headlines? The bureau chief roared angrily and slapped the back of the young man's head. The young man hugged his head, feeling wronged and afraid. He retorted in disbelief, Old master, can you be reasonable? Why must it be me? He really didn't do anything. Why are they suspecting me all of a sudden? You're the youngest person in the institute. You're the only one who chases celebrities. Thinking of this, the bureau chief with gray hair picked up the broom beside him and chased after him. How dare you quibble? How dare you say it's not you? The young man who had been beaten up felt extremely wronged. In the end, he hid in the office and held the door, not letting the bureau chief in. What kind of suffering was this? He was sitting at home, but trouble came from the sky. The young man didn't forget to struggle. It really wasn't me, old master. The female celebrity I like isn't this either. Moreover, the person who was attacked online this time is a normal person. I don't know her at all. The bureau chief's anger had mostly dissipated, but he was still skeptical. Although this fellow had never done anything particularly unscrupulous in the past, he had never done anything particularly reckless. But other than him who was unruly, it was impossible for the rest of the people in the institute to do that. If it wasn't you, who else could it be? The rest of the people in the institute who have this ability are already in their 40s or 50s. Who likes to surf the internet? Why must it be someone in our institute? The young man retorted instinctively. However, these words unexpectedly stunned the bureau chief. Not long after, he muttered to himself, You're saying that it could be someone else. Seeing that the bureau chief was finally willing to let him off, the young man was instantly delighted and immediately opened the door. That's right, that's right. When you catch that person, you can throw the broom at him. The young man was halfway through his anger when he was suddenly interrupted. That's great. The bureau chief suddenly threw the broom away and laughed loudly to himself. As he turned to leave, he called someone. He was in high spirits. Hello. Xiao Wei, go and ask that company if they can find her. We haven't had any fresh blood in the institute for a long time. Who knows, we might be able to find a new member this time. At the side, the young man who was completely ignored. What a terrible old man. If it was him, he would be beaten. If it was someone else, would he be so happy? The management leaders, who were in a deadlock because of the headlines, received a call. Hello, I'm Marcus, the Deputy Director of Country R's Computing Institute. After Marcus finished speaking, he was just about to ask someone to translate it for this person. But it just so happened that the management had studied abroad before, so there was no language barrier. Hello. Are you Mr. Marcus? The management leaders were excited and surprised. They found it hard to believe. Why would Marcus call him? Even if he wasn't in the computer field, he knew what kind of person Marcus was. He was one of the most respected researchers in Country R. Since you can understand, that's great. Is it convenient for you to have a video conference? I want to talk to you about your company's matters this time. Marcus' tone was cold and arrogant. Chapter 81. WR Company's Matter. The management leader's expression changed and his tone was a little slow. He suddenly had a bad premonition. Yes. Marcus did not intend to talk nonsense with him. When the management leader came back to his senses, he quickly nodded. Okay. Sure, please wait for a while. Soon. After he asked the people in the meeting room to leave, he immediately received a video call from Marcus. He looked nervous. Hello, Mr. Marcus. He smiled stiffly. Marcus laughed. I'm not very good. Marcus did not intend to waste time and asked directly, what's your position in the company? I'm the company's vice president. The vice president quickly said. Okay. Marcus glanced at him with a forced attitude and asked coldly, does your company know who is the person you used to block the scandal of your artist? When the vice president heard this, a premonition that made his scalp tingle grew stronger. Isn't it, the illegitimate daughter of the Chin family? Marcus sneered. She's the most talked about member of our computing institute. What? The vice president looked up suddenly and his pupils shrank. A member of Mr. Marcus' Computing Institute? That was the world's top computing institute. What kind of joke was this? How old was that illegitimate daughter of the Chin family? The vice president felt ridiculous and laughed dryly. Mr. Marcus, are you kidding me? If I have time to tease you, I might as well do more research. The vice president was speechless. When Marcus thought of Bei Yunja's matter, he became angrier and smiled coldly. The members of our computing institute have always been the focus of our country's protection. Even in any country, they will receive the same protection and respect. However, your company is really bold to use our members to block the scandal of your artist? Suddenly, the vice president's scalp tingled. He really did not know that the illegitimate daughter of the Chin family had such a background. Mr. Marcus, you've misunderstood. This is an accident. The vice president did not want to offend these people from the top computing institute. One of them could cause chaos in their company. If they offended this group, they would automatically enter the internet industry's blacklist. Thinking of this, the vice president felt a chill run down his spine. She began to regret using Bei Yunj as a shield. It's not an accident. It's actually a good thing. Marcus suddenly smiled and continued, actually, our country really hopes that Miss Pei can immigrate to our nation. After all, a high-end talent like him is highly sought after everywhere. Next. Marcus seemed to feel that these words were not stimulating enough and said gently, what you did today can be regarded as helping us. In the future, if Miss Pei really migrates here, all of you will have contributed greatly. When the vice president heard this, he felt terrible and nearly passed out on the spot. Mr. Marcus, don't joke. Our Miss Pei will definitely not emigrate. When the vice president thought about how he might be labeled as a traitor one day, he felt weak all over. No way. Bei Yunj must not immigrate. Otherwise, he would really be done for, is that so? Marcus smiled. But speaking of which, Miss Pei really doesn't intend to emigrate. But this time, she seems to be quite unhappy. Chapter 82. Mr. Marcus, I'll handle this matter properly and apologize to Miss Bei Yunj. The vice president immediately replied. Upon hearing this, Marcus raised his eyebrows and did not provoke him further. Freeze the settings of the login software. It will be removed in 3 days. The vice president hurriedly nodded. Okay. It was fine if it was not removed, as long as that ancestor was happy. As for Miss Pei, I hope you won't say anything that you shouldn't say. She doesn't like these things, Marcus added. Don't worry, I'll keep my mouth shut. I'll have to trouble Mr. Marcus to deal with this matter personally. Marcus glanced at him and cut the video. Okay, I'll go back to work. Goodbye, Mr. Marcus. The vice president's smile stiffened. After the video ended, he lay paralyzed on the chair. Soon, someone knocked on the door. Vice President, about the headlines. The secretary asked cautiously. The vice president rubbed his face. Get someone to post a notice saying that there's a bug in the company. Oh yes, tell those people that in the future, anything related to Miss Bei Yunj can't be on the list. If they see her post, delete it. The secretary was stunned when he heard this. Didn't the vice president look down on the illegitimate daughter of the Qin family? This was treatment that even the famous artistes that the company worked with did not dare to receive. If the higher-ups ask about this. The secretary reminded him hesitantly. The vice president put on a fake smile. Miss Pei's reputation is the most important thing. If anyone has any objections, they can look for me. Soon after this matter was settled, the vice president sent someone to find out Bei Yunj's contact information. He had to apologize to this ancestor. Otherwise, if she really emigrated one day, he would become the person who added fuel to the fire of our nation's computing institute. Subsequently, to the vice president's surprise, he received a call from a big scientific researcher today. It was the director of the top computing institute in the country, a research fellow of the Academy of Science, Mr. Zhong Xinglin. The vice president's hands were trembling. Why were there so many gods knocking on his door today? I heard that something happened to the headlines. Zhong Xinglin asked with a smile. He really wanted to pretend that he couldn't hear the joy in his tone. How did you know? The vice president did not dare to lie to him. One had to know that the people this person usually came into contact with were all important figures that he didn't even have the chance to meet. Didn't some people suspect that it was done by our people? No, it's really not your place. The vice president thought that Zhong Xinglin was here to cause trouble. However, the next moment, he heard Zhong Xinglin ask. Then did you find out who did it? Come, tell me, who is this? Zhong Xinglin could not suppress his excitement. This was truly a talent that had been overlooked. No, he had to think of a way to recruit them. Hearing this, the vice president understood old Mr. Zhong's intention. But what made him hesitate was that he had just promised Marcus to keep his mouth shut. What's wrong? You can't reveal it. The vice president could tell that old Mr. Zhong's tone had turned cold. In his haste, he found a compromise. The vice president hurriedly smiled and said, yes, of course. That person is a member of our nation's Institute of Computational Technology. Just a moment ago, Mr. Marcus also called. As soon as he finished speaking, the voice on the other end suddenly became louder and louder. How could this be their person? Marcus, that old thing, came to my territory to snatch people. Chapter 83. It was probably the first time the vice president had heard a big shot tearing someone apart. Furthermore, he was so down to earth that he couldn't react in time. But he didn't need to react. Because in the next moment, Zhong Xinglin decisively hung up on him. The vice president was speechless. Half an hour later, Marcus had just finished his work when he saw dozens of missed calls on his cell phone. Was there something wrong with this old man? Marcus cursed in his heart, but he dialed the number back. After the call was connected, before he could speak, he heard Zhong Xinglin's angry roar. Marcus, you don't think of yourself as a human anymore, do you? Are your country's scientific research seedlings extinct? Do you have to snatch them from me? After hearing this, Marcus took a long time to realize the reason for Zhong Xinglin's anger. Oh, this old man had discovered Bai Yunj. When he thought of how Bai Yunj was so stubborn and refused to immigrate, Marcus felt jealous for the first time. A few days ago, he had also just found out that Bai Yunj had such a terrifying ability. She was only 18 or 19 years old. In time, when Bai Yunj grew up, wouldn't this old man be even more arrogant and smug? Marcus felt jealous. What right did this old man have? Subsequently, Marcus chuckled and said sarcastically, "Who can you blame for this? It's your fault for not being able to control her." Zhong Xinglin was speechless. Why was there an indescribable sense of familiarity in his tone? Zhong Xinglin coughed lightly and asked reservedly, "All right. What's the name of your new member? We can talk when you're free." Zhong Xinglin, do you take me for a fool? Don't get any ideas. Ha, you want to poach her? Dream on. Marcus sneered and hung up the phone decisively. But when he thought of Zhong Xinglin's shameless words just now, he couldn't help but scold him angrily. Old man, you're shameless. At this moment, Zhong Xinglin's face darkened. He couldn't wait to buy a plane ticket to country or to fight with Marcus. This Marcus, does he think he's so great just because he won the Busaka Award 2 years ago? Zhong Xinglin was furious. I heard that he was also nominated this year, the young man who was beaten up today said softly. The K.Z. Busaka Award was the most famous award in the computing world. If Marcus won another award this time, many people would use Country R's Computing Institute to trample on their Computing Institute. Zhong Xinglin glared at him. You know that too. You're the most talented person in our institute, but you're still slacking at work every day. If you had worked hard, I wouldn't have had to suck up to that old bastard Marcus to snatch you. The young man was speechless. How could he be blamed for this? Even if he did research to death, he wouldn't be able to catch up to Marcus in 6 or 7 years. The inspector, the Bushiza's Busaka. Zhong Xinglin rolled his eyes and said angrily, snatch? That guy Busaka bushes to Lu, but I'm curious too. I don't know how powerful this new member is to make Marcus so nervous. The young man shrugged. Isn't that easy to find? He saved the damsel in distress and stood up for the illegitimate daughter of the Qin family. If you contact that person from the Qin family, won't you have a clue? That's right. How could I forget? Zhong Xinglin's eyes lit up. Monday. Bai Yunj had just arrived at school when she felt the strange gazes from the people around her. Before she entered the classroom, she could hear the discussions inside. Damn, no wonder Bai Yunj is so arrogant. So she's not a poor relative, but the illegitimate daughter of the Qin family. Chapter 84. So what if she's an illegitimate daughter? Even the real young ladies aren't like her. Someone laughed sarcastically. Sigh, you're wrong. The more indecent a person's identity is, the more they like to cause trouble. As long as Qin Youjiao plays the piano, everyone will know that she's the top socialite. Another voice said disdainfully, as for those with shameful identities, they can only rely on claptrap. That's right. Youjiao's brothers dote on her so much. As for someone, she's probably just someone who gets despised. When Bai Yunj walked to the door, she had heard most of these words. However, Bai Yunj did not expect to hear the sound of tables and chairs colliding before she walked in. Chu Zhixing's angry voice sounded. What right do you have to talk about Bai Yunj? At least, Bai Yunj has never insulted people behind their backs. Hearing this, Bai Yunj, who was at the door, froze. Previously, Chu Zhixing had said that he wanted to follow her. However, she was not an easy person to get along with, so she rejected him directly. However, she did not expect Chu Zhixing to speak up for her at this time. Soon, a few chattering girls blushed and glared at Chu Zhixing. Someone laughed coldly. Disgusting. I didn't expect there to be Bei Yunji's lapdog here. We're not qualified. Doesn't Bei Yunji want to be talked about by everyone? Another pure-looking girl said harshly, what right does she have to snatch Qin Youjiao's things? She should take a look at herself first. At this moment, the girl's words became sharper and sharper, but they did not notice that Bei Yunji had casually brushed a strand of her black hair behind her back. Her slender and fair index finger twirled and played with it as she walked over leisurely, her beautiful eyes raised lazily. Continue. The moment Bei Yunji's voice sounded, several girls who were talking behind their backs froze and their faces paled. It was as if they did not expect Bei Yunji to come so early. Xiao Chu, are you two free? Bei Yunji walked up to Chu Zhixing and asked calmly. When Chu Zhixing heard this, he thought that Bei Yunji was blaming him for being a busybody. His entire body froze. But the next moment, the beautiful and ostentatious girl sneered lazily, warm-hearted good citizen. We have to take care of all the animals in the school. Chu Zhixing came back to his senses. He pursed his lips and tried very hard to hold back his laughter. As for the girls, their faces turned red and green. Bei Yunji. What do you mean? Classmate, don't misunderstand. That's what you think it means. Bei Yunji sat in her seat. Her tone was polite, but her words were as impudent as her personality. You. The girl glared at Bei Yunji and gritted her teeth. Suddenly, a voice came from the door. What's with the noise? What are you all arguing about? Everyone turned around and saw that it was the dean. He glanced at everyone with a dark expression. I heard your voices from the corridor. Did you all get full marks for the college entrance examination? Bei Yunji turned her head and gave Chu Zhixing a few candies. Then, she pulled up her hat and got ready to sleep. But in the dean's eyes, this scene was a thorn in his side. This Bei Yunji was even more unscrupulous than Lu Yuanxi. Bei Yunji, what are you planning to do? I'm crying. I was scolded by my classmates just now and I'm quite upset. Bei Yunji finished speaking slowly and fell asleep on the table. The girls, the dean's face turned ashen. Chapter 85. However, at the thought of Bei Yunji's identity, the dean suppressed his anger and only glanced at Bei Yunji in disgust before he left with a cold expression. No wonder she was only acknowledged by the Qin family when she was already so old. The Qin family probably felt that they couldn't afford to lose face. Everyone in the school knew that Qin Youjiao was a fair, rich, and beautiful girl with excellent results. And because Bei Yunji had injured Qian Qingjun, she was quickly recognized by everyone. Therefore, in Hengda High School, almost everyone felt that Qin Youjiao and Bei Yunji were worlds apart. Not long after the dean left, Bei Yunji took off her hat and flipped open her extracurricular book. There was an iPad inside. Student Bei Yunji, didn't you want to sleep? Chu Zhixing could not help asking when he saw that Bei Yunji was awake. I can't sleep, Bei Yunji said. Chu Zhixing immediately understood that Bei Yunji just didn't want to see the dean. After the first period ended, seeing that Lu Yuanxi had returned, everyone had different thoughts. Many people glanced at Bei Yunji gloatingly. Who didn't know that Lu Yuanxi liked Qin Youjiao? The others would take into account the Qin family or Bei Yunji's past actions and wouldn't dare to have a conflict with Bei Yunji. But Lu Yuanxi wouldn't. At this moment, everyone's eyes could not help but secretly glance at Lu Yuanxi and Bei Yunji. Even Chu Zhixing became nervous. They saw Lu Yuanxi walk in front of Bei Yunji expressionlessly. Are you done with your homework? Let me copy it. Lu Yuanxi seemed to have just woken up and his tone was slightly low. Why don't you borrow it from others? Bei Yunji furrowed his eyebrows. Lu Yuanxi said matter-of-factly, it's more suitable to copy from people of similar standards. Bei Yunji threw the homework on his table and couldn't be bothered to say anything. However, Seeing this scene, everyone else was stunned. Why didn't Lu Yuanxi find trouble with Bei Yunj and even seem to have a good relationship with Bei Yunj? Ling Jiwei, who had found trouble with Bei Yunj before, couldn't help saying in a sharp tone, "Yuanxi, don't you know her identity?" In the past, Lu Yuanxi was the most protective of Qin Youjiao. But now, he actually didn't care that Bei Yunj stole Qin Youjiao. He was closer to Bei Yunj than anyone else in class. Lu Yuanxi glanced at her indifferently and returned to his seat. Seeing that Lu Yuanxi was ignoring her, Ling Jiwei shouted with a sharp voice, "She's the illegitimate daughter of the Qin family." Lu Yuanxi's gaze gradually turned cold. He slowly looked at her and sneered, "What does that have to do with me?" He had known this for a long time. Bei Yunj. Of Bei Yunj, Bei Yunj, Bei Qin, Bei Yunj, Bei Yunj, Bei Bei. Moreover, his new deskmate was much more pleasing to the eye than those girls who gossiped every day. Although his temper was quite bad. Bei, to Yunj, to Yunj. To Yunj Bei. Bei Yun. Yunj Yus Bei Iei Yang Yuto Yyyyyyyyyyyyt. Seeing Bei Yunj looking at her, Ling Jiwei suppressed her inexplicable fear and questioned, "Aren't you?" Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow, as if she had suddenly thought of an interesting joke. Illegitimate daughter? That seems to be easier to accept than Miss Qin's identity. These words immediately caused the others to be confused. What did Bei Yunj mean? However, Lu Yuanxi's hands stopped and his eyes darkened as he glanced at Bei Yunj. But in the next second, everyone's thoughts were interrupted by the girl running in from outside. "Student Lu, Youjiao is hiding in the washroom and refusing to come out. I'm worried that something will happen to her. Could you please?" Chapter 86. Hearing this, before the girl could finish speaking, Lu Yuanxi's expression changed and he stood up immediately. "Where is she?" After that, Lu Yuanxi did not return for the entire morning, but news about Qin Youjiao had spread. It was said that Qin Youjiao could not stand the shock and because of a certain someone's existence, she had an emotional breakdown and hid in the toilet to cry until she fainted. Fortunately, Lu Yuanxi kicked open the toilet door and carried the unconscious Qin Youjiao to the infirmary. After that, even the school hunk, Cheng Zihuai, rushed over immediately when he found out about this. Everyone could not help but be envious. This Qin Youjiao was holding the female lead script and was treated like a treasure by all the male idols. In the infirmary, Cheng Zihuai's handsome face darkened as he clenched his fists. "I knew it. This matter has something to do with Bei Yunj." Hearing Cheng Zihuai say this, Lu Yuanxi could not help sneering coldly. "Cheng Zihuai, you don't have to push the blame to my deskmate." "Why? Do you feel sorry for her?" Cheng Zihuai looked at him coldly. It was not that he did not know that Lu Yuanxi's feelings for Qin Youjiao were different. But it was also his first time seeing him defend another girl. "No. I just think that you guys are very prejudiced against her." Lu Yuanxi's lips curled into a mocking smile. After glancing at him, he turned around and left. He and Cheng Zihuai did not like each other to begin with and did not have the habit of saying goodbye before leaving. At this moment, Cheng Zihuai gritted his teeth and sent a message to Bei Yunj. "Bei Yunj, you're really capable." These words could not hide his anger and sarcasm. But a few minutes later, she replied. "Do I need you to tell me that?" Instantly, Cheng Zihuai's expression darkened. Just as Cheng Zihuai's temper rose and he was about to settle the score with Bei Yunj, a weak voice suddenly sounded from the side. "Zihuai, why are you here?" The ruthlessness in Cheng Zihuai's eyes dissipated and he looked at Qin Youjiao, his tone gentle. "Shouldn't I be here? Why didn't you take good care of yourself and did such a stupid thing?" Hearing this, Qin Youjiao could not help but cry. "My third brother and grandpa don't want me anymore. They've all changed. They only like Bei Yunj." After Qin Lang found out about Bei Yunj's scandal the day before yesterday, no matter what she said, he was certain that she had something to do with it. He even got someone to throw her things out and forbade her from staying at home. Later on, if Mother Qin hadn't rushed over, she wouldn't have known where to stay. After hearing Qin Youjiao's complaints, Qing Zihuai frowned unhappily. Enough, Jiao Jiao, your third brother probably heard what Bei Yunj said. Don't worry, your third brother will definitely regret doing this. Qin Youjiao's tears flowed uncontrollably, making one's heart ache. But I really don't know what to do now. Third brother has never treated me like this before. Qing Zihuai thought for a long time before a dark look flashed in his eyes. He hugged Qin Youjiao's shoulders and said with a comforting smile, "Do you only have third brother? Your third brother is the youngest and is easily deceived. But eldest brother and second brother are not people who are easily fooled. I heard that your second brother returned to the country today." Really? Qin Youjiao, who had been sobbing non-stop, now her eyes lit up. Her second brother, Qin Yu. Actually, she rarely saw him because Qin Yu had severed ties with his family and gone to the entertainment industry to develop his career. However, no one thought that in just 4 years, Qin Yu would become the popular best actor. Chapter 87. However, all along, Qin Yu would get whatever Qin Youjiao wanted to make her happy. Although he would also prepare a set for Bei Yunj, in the end, Qin Yu had the least relationship with Bei Yunj. After all, Bei Yunj had lived at home for more than 2 years and had only seen Qin Yu twice. Then I'll ask second brother now when he will arrive at the airport. I'll go pick him up. Qin Youjiao said with a sweet smile. As long as she picked Qin Yu up in public, after Qin Yu's identity was exposed, everyone would still think that she, Qin Youjiao, was the most favored person in the Qin family. Soon, Qin Youjiao sent Qin Yu a message. "Second brother, can I pick you up from the airport? I have something to tell you." Pitiful emoji. After sending the message, Qin Youjiao did not receive Qin Yu's reply and thought that he was busy. However, in the afternoon, Bei Yunj received several messages. Why did you blacklist second brother? Second brother brought you a surprise. Do you want to play with second brother after school? Did second brother make you angry recently? I'm sorry, Second brother was wrong. Can you ignore me? Bei Yunj's eyelid twitched. Why was this Qin Yu even stranger than Qin Lang? In her impression, Qin Yu's tone when he spoke to Qin Youjiao was not so coaxing and coquettish. At this thought, Bei Yunj suddenly felt that these biological brothers did not fit their personas. However, Bei Yunj's impression of Qin Yu was the best among the 3 brothers. Perhaps it was because Qin Yu's attitude towards the original protagonist was considered gentle and kind. However, in the original novel, second brother's ending was the worst. He was rumored to have a fetish for children and ended up being disfigured by his own fans with sulfuric acid. Bei Yunj's eyes darkened, but she still replied. I'm not free. The moment the message was sent, the person on the other end replied to Bei Yunj very quickly. Then second brother will pick you up after school. I'll take you to eat something and then send you back, okay? Second brother won't disturb her studies. Pitiful emoji. Bei Yunj's eyes twitched. After replying, she threw her phone into the drawer. Up to you. At this moment, Qin Yu, who had just gotten off the plane, couldn't hide his happiness. He could not help but call Huashidu. Half a minute later, Huashidu answered the call, and a pleasant and faint voice sounded. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up. Qin Yu was very happy and was already used to Huashidu's casual attitude. Master Du, I'm back in the country. I reckon that in 2 days, my guru will follow me home. I've really troubled you all this time. There was no response from the other end of the phone. He didn't know if the signal was bad. Suddenly, the man's voice sounded again. His light tone was even more magnetic in the weak current. Did the child agree? Qin Yu's expression froze, but he quickly smiled and said, of course. Who knew? The man on the other end of the phone sneered and hung up. Qin Yu? Was he being mocked? The exit passageway. Outside, the fans had already gathered so tightly that not even a drop of water could leak out. It was only when a handsome man walked out that the screams of the fans continued for a long time. Qin Yu was wearing a white t-shirt that was casually tucked into his black pants. It accentuated his broad shoulders and narrow waist, and his figure was extremely proportionate. Chapter 88. What made the fans scream the most was, the man's well-defined hand was fair and slender. There were black English words tattooed on the inside of his forearm, and the paper bag he was carrying contained a teddy bear. Why did this scene look a little doting? Ah, I'm gone. Qin Yu, are you in a relationship? Hubby, what's wrong with the teddy bear? Are you having an affair? This man's cold look when he's not flirting with me is also amazing. Hearing the screams, Qin Yu's thin lips curled up. This teddy bear? I used it to protect my little princess. With that said, the entire venue was about to explode. However, before he could anger his fans, Qin Yu chuckled. She's my biological sister. With this, the fans' attitude changed positively. Hubby, when can I see our sister? Hubby's sister must be very pretty too. Sister doesn't need a teddy bear. Sister needs a boyfriend. At this moment, Qin Yu was used to the first two sentences, but the last sentence almost made Qin Yu lose his balance. He smiled and turned to look at them. No, she doesn't need it. After school. Qin Yojiao looked at the message on her phone anxiously, waiting for Qin Yu's reply. She had called Qin Yu several times just now, but she couldn't get through. Suddenly, a girl beside her patted Qin Yojiao's shoulder. Jiao Jiao, are you okay? Why don't we go together? Qin Yojiao glanced at the female classmate and remembered that she was Qin Yu's fan. A dark look flashed past her eyes. Okay. Qin Yojiao put her phone back into her pocket and asked casually, I heard that Qin Yu returned today. Yes, he arrived at noon today. It's a pity that I can't pick him up from the airport when I go to school. The girl sounded disappointed, but a moment later, she said enviously, however, I heard from the sisters at the front line that Qin Yu said he has a younger sister today. He even brought his sister a teddy bear. I'm jealous. Hearing this, Qin Yojiao was a little surprised, but the corners of her lips couldn't help but curl up. It was probably a gift from second brother again. Qin Yojiao patted her shoulder. Alright, if you really like him a lot, then let's go. I'll see if I can get you an autograph. Really? Jiao Jiao, you're really a beautiful and kind fairy. The girl's eyes lit up with excitement. I won't lie to you. Qin Yojiao smiled confidently. Subsequently, when Qin Yojiao and the girl reached the door, Qin Yojiao saw a familiar figure. Although she was wearing a mask, she recognized her at a glance. It's second brother. Qin Yojiao couldn't help feeling excited, but she pretended to be calm on the surface as she walked towards Qin Yu with a smile. No wonder he didn't reply to her messages. He was here to pick her up. He was probably preparing a surprise for her, right? Second brother, why do you always like to tease people? Qin Yu said coquettishly. Qin Yu turned around and frowned unconsciously when he saw that it was Qin Yojiao. Why are you here? He sounded displeased. Qin Yojiao did not react in time and thought that Qin Yu was teasing her. Then, her eyes landed on the teddy bear in the paper bag in Qin Yu's hand. He was still pretending to be cold to her. He didn't even try to hide the gift he bought for her. At this thought, Qin Yojiao could not help but jump for joy. After glancing at the female classmate beside her, she coughed lightly. She reached for the teddy bear in the paper bag. Chapter 89. Seeing Qin Yojiao reach out to take his paper bag, Qin Yu immediately dodged her approach. Fortunately, she didn't touch it. Qin Yu heaved a sigh of relief and glanced at her coldly. It's not for you. Instantly, Qin Yojiao's smile froze and the grievances and anger that had accumulated during this period surged into her heart. Her eyes were charming and her tone was a little harsh. Second brother, don't tell me you want to give it to Bei Yunj. If that's the case, don't expect me to forgive you for the rest of your life. Qin Yojiao was sure that Qin Yu would be shocked to hear her say this. However, when Qin Yu heard this, ridicule appeared in his originally cold eyes and he turned to glance at her. Qin Yojiao, you found your biological parents 2 years ago. Isn't it bad to keep staying in the Qin family? Qin Yu asked casually, his tone a little unreasonable. Qin Lang still cared about Mr. and Mrs. Qin, so he was still willing to tolerate it. But Qin Yu was different. If he was willing to tolerate it, he wouldn't have cut ties with the Qin family and gone out to work for himself. However, Qin Yojiao, who was suddenly asked this, felt like she had fallen into an ice cellar. Her face was filled with disbelief and her face paled. Why would second brother say this about her? Second brother was clearly in charge of things and was a little cold to everyone. It was impossible for him to say this about her because of Bei Yunj. Before Qin Yojiao could speak, another voice sounded from the side. What are you doing here? Qin Lang's eyes widened. He didn't expect this Qin Yu to come to Hengda High School the moment he returned. What a wild ambition. Was he trying to coax Gu behind his back? Third brother. Qin Yojiao called out sweetly. Hearing this, Qin Lang couldn't help frowning. After glancing at Qin Yojiao, his thoughts changed. Was this Qin Yu crazy? He rushed back to fetch Qin Yojiao. You're here too. Qin Yojiao bit her lip, wanting to say something but hesitated. On one hand, she hoped that Qin Lang was here to apologize. On the other hand, she was afraid that Qin Lang would say that he was here to fetch Bei Yunj. It had only been 2 years and everything she had worked so hard to manage was going to be snatched away by Bei Yunj. This was impossible. She could allow her brothers to treat Bei Yunj slightly, but they could not surpass her. None of your business. Qin Lang's looks were also very outstanding. When he stood with Qin Yu, who was wearing a mask, he immediately became the focus of the crowd. Is that Crush? Ah. Of course. Did you see Qin Yojiao? Where's Qin Lang's sister? Damn, it's too sour. What kind of winner is Qin Yojiao? Wait a minute, the one next to him looks a little familiar. This outfit, this appearance, is it Qin Yu? Qin Yu? As soon as the girl's voice got louder, many people turned their heads and looked over. Qin Yu was the youngest and most popular best actor in the industry. The number of young girl fans was innumerable. Qin Yojiao, Qin Lang, Qin Yu. Damn, Qin Yu is also Qin Yojiao's brother. I'm going crazy. What kind of goddamn female lead script is this? Her brothers were all male leads. Think about it carefully. A few days ago, someone said that an illegitimate daughter would snatch Qin Yojiao's things. Now, her brothers are here to fetch Qin Yojiao directly. You have to know that Qin Yu has never exposed his identity in the 4 years since he debuted. Not far away, Qin Yojiao also heard these words. After seeing that someone was secretly taking photos, she unconsciously stood closer to Qin Yu. Those who didn't know better would think that Qin Yu had brought the teddy bear to fetch Qin Yojiao. P.S. By the way, this book hasn't been updated yet. If there are similar comments next time, it will be banned. Chapter 90. Qin Lang did not notice it, but Qin Yu, who was beside him, furrowed his eyebrows. He could feel the camera approaching Qin Yojiao. He smirked and pulled up his black mask. With a stride, he stood beside Qin Lang. He used Qin Lang to isolate Qin Yojiao. Soon. Sensing something, Qin Lang looked at Qin Yu. Look, was this something a human would do? However, in the next second. After Qin Lang regained his senses, he hurriedly avoided Qin Yojiao. After this scene was captured on camera, it looked very strange. Qin Yojiao stood by the side, but the two handsome brothers were standing next to each other. They looked like plastic siblings. Feeling that Qin Lang and Qin Yu did not want to get close to her, Qin Yojiao's expression darkened. The corners of her lips curled up stiffly, wanting to approach Qin Yu and Qin Lang. Second brother, third brother, you, suddenly. Qin Yu took off his mask, his dark eyes shining as he walked towards the school gate, as if Qin Youjiao did not exist. This scene made Qin Youjiao lose her composure and her expression was as dark as the bottom of a pot. Especially when she turned around and saw Bei Yunj walking out of the door. Why did Bei Yunj come out? Qin Youjiao suddenly had a bad feeling and interrupted herself. No, it's impossible. Second brother isn't here to fetch Bei Yunj. However, with that said, Qin Yu, who was not far away, had already walked in front of Bei Yunj and gave Bei Yunj an affectionate hug. Gu, second brother missed you so much. With that said, Qin Yu could not help but pull down his black mask. His slender and tall body bent down and rubbed against her shoulder lightly. Everyone was stunned by this scene. After a few seconds of silence. Ah, it's really Qin Yu. Qin Yu is here to fetch Bei Yunj. Oh my god. I thought Qin Yu was here to fetch Qin Youjiao. After all, wasn't this the publicly acknowledged little princess of the Qin family? Hey, did you notice that Qin Yu and Qin Lang didn't talk much to Qin Youjiao just now? Qin Youjiao doesn't seem to be as doted on as the rumors say. Qin Yu's passionate hug just now was really shocking and enviable. After all, Qin Yu had never been involved in scandals in the industry. It could be said that this was the first time they had seen Qin Yu get close to the opposite sex. Then, someone retorted, there's no need to be jealous of the young miss, right? No matter what, Qin Youjiao had been in the Qin family for almost 20 years. When did Bei Yunj come back? How can she be compared to Youjiao? Hearing this, many people thought about it and felt that it was true. Qin Youjiao was a fair, rich, and beautiful girl with excellent character and academics. No matter how one looked at it, she was more likable than Bei Yunj. At this moment, Bei Yunj froze when she was suddenly hugged by someone. Can you let go now? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows slightly and said indifferently. Hearing this, Qin Yu immediately let go of Bei Yunj and hid the paper bag behind him. Guess what second brother bought for you? Bei Yunj's eyebrows moved. She glanced at Qin Yu, whose eyes were shining, and could not help but smile. Diamonds? Qin Youjiao had a hobby of collecting diamonds, so Qin Yu would often buy these for Qin Youjiao as gifts. However, he had never lacked the original protagonist. However, a straight man like Qin Yu did not seem like he would pay attention to what a girl liked. He had always thought that all girls liked the same things. No. Bei Yunj stared at him and said nothing. Seeing this, Qin Yu immediately cowered. Chapter 91. At this moment, Lu Yuanxi, who had just left the school, saw this scene. It was his first time seeing his usually unrestrained deskmate remain silent and expressionless, revealing the conflict deep in her soul. Lu Yuanxi could not help but clench his fists and press them against his lips, laughing again. This gift was indeed not suitable for such a cool deskmate like him. Soon, Bei Yunj also spoke and rejected him with a smile. Thank you, but I don't like this kind of toy. It's better to give it to someone else. At this moment, Bei Yunj thought that Qin Yu had prepared the same gift for her as Qin Youjiao. However, Bei Yunj did not like it either. Especially this kind of stupid bear that she could not even touch. No, I bought this especially for Gu. Qin Yu rejected her immediately, his handsome eyes filled with seriousness. He leaned over slightly and looked at Bei Yunj at the same level, coaxing her in a low and flirtatious voice, Gu, the bear is very cute. Can you take it away? With that said, in an instant, the girls around them lost their minds and almost screamed. Where did this immortal brother come from? Why was he so handsome? Their blood was going to be depleted again. At this moment, Qin Lang's handsome face darkened, feeling sour and jealous. Ha! So what if he filmed a few more idol dramas? He actually flirted with his biological sister. Qin Yu, this be asterisk starred. Bei Yunj's eyelids moved. After feeling the intense gazes around her, she wanted to draw a line between her and this stupid bear. Aren't you going to eat? Bei Yunj interrupted Qin Yu casually. Hearing this, Qin Yu's mood improved even more. Gu asked him out for a meal. Gu was about to forgive him. Okay, second brother has already booked a restaurant. With that said, Qin Yu glanced at Qin Lang casually and smiled gently. However, I only booked 2 seats. Qin Lang was speechless. Could anyone be more inhumane than Qin Yu? Second brother, are you going with Bei Yunj? Qin Yojiao clenched her fists, her eyes filled with anger. She was so jealous that she was about to lose her mind. Second brother had always been indifferent to her. Back then, when she wanted second brother to bring her to meet his friends, second brother would always change the topic and never agreed. But now, second brother had come to fetch Bei Yunj personally. He even bought a gift for Bei Yunj and coaxed Bei Yunj like this. Even if it was in the past, she had never received such treatment. Isn't it normal? I only have my biological sisters a little bit. Unexpectedly, Qin Yu lifted his eyelids and said leisurely. And these words, Qin Yojiao's Qin, the surrounding people were even more stunned when they heard this. They were completely confused. What does Qin Yu mean? What do you mean you only biological sister? Are you talking about Bei Yunj? I think so. Did I hear wrongly? Qin is a Qin Yojiao didn't enter the Qin family halfway. She grew up in the Qin family and is a real young lady. Qin Yojiao had been the center of attention since she was young, so she naturally had a group of supporters. The discussion of the crowd was very soft, but Qin Lang, who was the closest, heard it. Qin Lang furrowed his eyebrows, his eyes cold. He was about to speak when he heard Qin Yu ask. What's wrong with your arm? Qin Lang turned back instinctively and saw that Bei Yunj was also looking at his forearm. He immediately became nervous. However, a few seconds later, Bei Yunj looked away calmly, making Qin Lang's heart feel empty. Chapter 92. Hearing this, Qin Yu furrowed his eyebrows unconsciously. Bei Yunj also glanced at Qin Lang. The scratch marks on his arm were not light at all. They looked a little tragic and there were even some purplish marks. Suddenly, Qin Yu thought of Qin Lang asking Qin Yojiao to move out. He must have angered Mrs. Qin. His voice was slightly cold. Did Mom do it? Aren't you going to eat? I still have something on, so I'll go back first. Qin Lang interrupted him and was about to leave when he stopped. He glanced at Bei Yunj and said softly, third brother is investigating what happened online. And about your identity. Third brother will clarify it for you in a few days. Actually, the moment that incident came out, Qin Yu and Qin Lang wanted to clarify it. In the end, they were banned for 3 days. They couldn't even click on it. That was why Qin Yu and Qin Lang rushed over, afraid that Bei Yunj would be sad and hate them even more. No need, Bei Yunj said calmly. If it wasn't for the fact that she still cared about the original protagonist's grandfather, she wouldn't have anything to do with the Qin family. Qin Lang's eyes darkened and he said nothing. Let's treat the injury on your arm. Bei Yunj's tone was emotionless. However, with just a casual greeting, Qin Lang's dimmed eyes lit up again. Okay. Don't worry. I'm fine. Beside her, Qin Yu glanced at the smiling Qin Lang with some disdain. However, at the thought of Mrs. Qin actually hitting Qin Lang for Qin Yojiao, Qin Yu's gaze turned cold. Soon, his emotions dissipated. Let's go. Second brother will take you to eat. At this moment, when everyone saw this scene, they almost thought that they had seen fake news back then. Didn't they say that Qin Yojiao was especially favored in the Qin family? Why did the two brothers feel like they were fighting for favor in front of Bei Yunj when they ignored Qin Yojiao? Second brother, then you can go eat first this time. I'm not feeling well, so you don't have to take care of me. Qin Yojiao deliberately raised her voice so that everyone could hear her clearly. But in the next moment, Qin Yu glanced at her calmly and snorted. I didn't plan to care about you either. Hearing this, Qin Youjiao's body froze. Her widened eyes slowly moistened as she stared at Qin Yu in disbelief. At first, she thought that third brother had already gone overboard. Who would have thought that her second brother would make her even more bitterly disappointed? Let's go and eat. Bei Yunj was not in the mood to be a monkey in front of others. When Qin Yu looked at Bei Yunj, the coldness in his eyes disappeared and he said with a smile, I'll listen to Gu. Qin Youjiao stared at Qin Yu and Bei Yunj's backs in disbelief. Her shoulders trembled slightly as a sense of humiliation grew stronger. How could this be? Her brothers had clearly been indifferent to Bei Yunj before, but now her second and third brothers were clearly in love with Bei Yunj. Youjiao. Lu Yuanxi, who was behind her, thought that Qin Youjiao was crying and came up to look at her. Oh, it's student Lu. Qin Youjiao's eyes were slightly red as she said, thank you for today. I didn't think that I would faint. Did something happen to you? I've never seen you like this before. Qin Youjiao bit her lip, unwillingness hidden in her eyes. Is it that no matter how outstanding I become, I can't be compared to Bei Yunj? At first, Qin Youjiao hoped that Lu Yuanxi could comfort her. However, Lu Yuanxi thought for a while. She's different. P.S. It's a little laggy. There's still one more chapter to go. There are at least 5 chapters today. Good girls, remember to vote. Chapter 93. Hearing this, Qin Youjiao's expression froze. What's different? Lu Yuanxi chuckled and glanced at Bei Yunj's departing figure. Don't you think that she's very attractive even when she's angry? Instantly, Qin Youjiao's expression darkened even more. She knew that Lu Yuanxi had a good impression of strong and independent girls, but she didn't expect his evaluation of Bei Yunj to break his inherent principles. In the past, Lu Yuanxi hated girls who caused trouble the most. Bei Yunj sat in the front passenger seat, playing with her phone with her head lowered. Soon, Qin Yu's phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID on the screen and suddenly became interested. This was the first time this master had taken the initiative to call him. How rare. Qin Yu put on his Bluetooth and answered the call very quickly. He asked lazily, what happened? I didn't expect you to call me one day. The man's tone was indifferent and he said carelessly, Yun Noa came to the company to look for you. Qin Yu's smile froze. Wasn't this woman too persistent? But then, he said slowly, she knows which restaurant you're going to. If you're afraid of something happening, you can go to the restaurant under the Hua Corporation. Hearing this, Qin Yu was immediately filled with gratitude towards Hua Shidu. He didn't expect Master Du to still care about him. Qin Yu smiled politely. In that case, I'll thank you first. Are you free today? My sister and I are going to eat together. If you're free. Sure. The man's light voice sounded neither too fast nor too slow. Qin Yu froze, ? Master Du couldn't tell that he was being polite to him. It was his first time going out for a meal with Gu. Did he look like he wanted someone to disturb them? Qin Yu took a deep breath and smiled insincerely. Is that so? All right, we haven't eaten together for a long time. After hanging up the call, Qin Yu tried his best to calm down. Master Du wouldn't do such an embarrassing thing on purpose. He probably thought that he was inviting him warmly. Gu, do you mind if there's another person eating with us? Qin Yu turned his head and asked carefully. He did not expect Hua Shidu to agree so readily. In the past, no matter how he asked Hua Shidu to go out with him, Hua Shidu had ignored him. Anything is fine, Bei Yunj said. Hearing this, Qin Yu heaved a sigh of relief. However, Qin Yu suddenly remembered something. Wasn't Gu staying with Master Du? These two must know each other. Qin Yu thought for a moment and asked implicitly, Gu, are you used to living here now? Not bad. Bei Yunj responded. That's good, that's good. Qin Yu coughed softly. He did not know if Hua Shidu had told Gu that he was the one who asked him to take care of Gu. If Gu thought that the two of them had colluded to deceive her, then it would really be over. At this thought, Qin Yu became even more nervous. He didn't know how to mention this to Bei Yunj. Until they got out of the car. Qin Yu brought Bei Yunj into a restaurant and was welcomed into a private room. After the waiter pushed open the door of the private room, he found that a handsome and dignified man was already sitting inside. Qin Yu was perplexed. Wasn't this too fast? He thought that Master Du would be late. Then, Bei Yunj's sudden words made Qin Yu stiffen even more. Brother? Qin Yu looked at Bei Yunj. Who was Gu calling? Chapter 94. Then. To Qin Yu's disbelief, after the man beside him casually unbuttoned 2 buttons on his collar, he replied calmly and casually. Qin Yu was speechless. Master Du, do you know what you're responding to? Within moments. Bei Yunj glanced at Qin Yu and then at Hushidu. She seemed to have suddenly understood what was going on. It turned out that the two of them already knew each other. That was why Hushidu had brought her back then. Gu, you, Qin Yu turned to look at Bei Yunj. Before he could finish asking, he saw Bei Yunj's faint smile and immediately shut up. I see. Bei Yunj's eyes were curled up and her tone was the same as usual, but it inexplicably made Qin Yu panic even more. It was over. Gu was definitely angry. At this moment, Bei Yunj did not say anything and only chose a seat at the side to sit down. Her bright and beautiful face was calm. She said, let's eat first. Okay. Qin Yu nodded and sat beside Bei Yunj nervously. He could not help but glance at her secretly. This action also made Hushidu, who was beside him, glance at him carelessly. After the dishes were served, Bei Yunj glanced at the dishes. They were all her usual favorites. Gu, try this. It's definitely delicious. Qin Yu kept putting food into Bei Yunj's bowl. And this too. Within a few minutes, Bei Yunj's bowl was filled. The corners of her lips twitched and she was about to say something when she heard the man beside her say lazily. Qin Yu, do you want to consider working part-time in my restaurant? With that said, not long after, Qin Yu regained his senses. This meant that he looked like a waiter in a restaurant. Qin Yu was speechless. I'm going to the washroom. Bei Yunj suddenly got up and walked out of the room after saying this. Seeing this, Qin Yu was even more frightened. He was worried and looked at Hushidu. Gu is angry. Master Du, what should we do? What should we do? You want to know? Hushidu loosened the collar of his shirt, and his cold white neckline touched his firm and sexy chest. His posture was lazy and light. He lifted his thin eyelids, and the corners of his upturned eyes were seductive. Let's leave early after this meal. Why did he have the guts to say that his sister had become his? Qin Yu couldn't help asking, what about you? The corners of Hushidu's thin red lips curled up. His low and magnetic voice made people blush and their hearts race. He was frivolous and ostentatious. Me? Let's discuss it with the little girl and see if it's okay. Listen to Yen. Qin Yu was stunned for a moment before he felt touched again. This was a true brother. He really did not expect that Master Du would actually lower himself to coax a little girl for the sake of his brother. She had misunderstood him in the past. Qin Yu felt guilty for a while before he reminded her, okay. Master Du, if you really can't come to an agreement, don't be angry. It's normal for girls to have a bit of temper. He was also a little afraid. With Hushidu's temper, if he was provoked by Gu, it would be like provoking the king of hell. Why don't you leave now? Hushidu asked slowly. Qin Yu, after Bei Yunj returned, Hushidu was the only one left in the room. She raised an eyebrow and walked to the dining table, asking, where is he? Hushidu's slender fingers were stained with red oil as he slowly peeled the prawn shell. It looked pleasing to the eye. Chapter 95. Bei Yunj glanced at him and did not move. Who knew? In the next moment, the man's unwavering gaze landed on her. His eyes were so dark that they could not be seen clearly. Suddenly, he chuckled softly. His lazy voice was low and magnetic, blatantly seductive. Brother's hands are covered in oil. Do you still need brother to carry you? Bei-yunj, not long after. Bei-yunj sat beside Hwashidu. She held her chopsticks and ate her rice without saying a word. Hwashidu glanced at her. Yun-yun. She said, don't talk when you eat. Not long after. Bei-yunj heard the man chuckle happily again. He said without blushing, if Yun-yun eats more, brother will have to charge you. Bei-yunj looked at Hwashidu and suddenly laughed. Her tone was ambiguous. Brother charges a lot, right? However, the man curled his thin lips slowly and reached out his hand frivolously. His cold fingers were stained with red oil as he deliberately rubbed them against her lips. His lazy and sexy appearance was ostentatious and ambiguous. This is the first time brother charges. Do you want to try? Bei-yunj, she should not have said so much to him. She took a deep breath without batting an eyelid and wiped the red oil off her lips expressionlessly. She turned around and planned to continue eating. Then, before she could lower her head, a slender and good-looking hand beside her placed the peeled prawn meat in her bowl. The man's magnetic voice was filled with a smile as it echoed in Bei-yunj's ear. It was hopelessly sexy. Brother is joking. I just want Yun-yun to talk to brother. If Yun-yun likes it, brother will bring Yun-yun here every day in the future. Okay, Yun-yun, don't be angry with brother. The man's pleasant voice had a certain level of seduction that was hard to reject. However, when Bei-yunj heard this, she only glanced at Hwashidu and smiled at him before continuing to eat. Seeing this, Hwashidu was not in a hurry. The corners of his lips curled up as he slowly peeled the prawn shell. From time to time, he would feed the girl beside him who was not easy to coax. It was as if he was coaxing his little ancestor. The man suddenly had this thought. He couldn't help chuckling and glanced at Bei-yunj playfully. Bei-yunj was so engrossed in eating that he didn't notice the expressions of the people around him. After leaving the restaurant, Bei-yunj sat in the front passenger seat and focused on playing with her phone. Suddenly, his phone vibrated. Hwashidu, who was beside her, suddenly said casually, Yun-yun, take a look at the news for me. Bei-yunj glanced at him and picked up Hwashidu's phone. She heard him say a string of passwords. She clicked on the message and read it aloud. She waited for the man to let out a soft hum before putting the phone back. Through the rearview mirror, he glanced at the cold-looking young lady beside him and unconsciously curled his lips. Thank you, Yun-yun. The little girl was indeed very vengeful. Bei-yunj lowered her head and nodded. She was about to continue playing with her phone. Hwashidu, who was beside her, suddenly took out a few candies from the side and opened the candy wrapper with one hand. Yun-yun. Hwashidu called out leisurely. Hearing this, Bei-yunj instinctively turned her head. Just as she was about to say something, she was suddenly fed a piece of candy. The strawberry-flavored milk candy was soft and sweet as it slowly melted between her lips and teeth. Bei-yunj was speechless. After that, before Bei-yunj could do anything, she heard the man say slowly, Yun-yun, if you don't give me face, the things in my trunk are all prepared for you. P.S. There will be 2 more updates later. Chapter 96. He chuckled happily and glanced at her seductively. No one can snatch you from our Yun-yun. Bei-yunj was speechless. A few seconds later, Bei-yunj was still chewing on the candy as she turned back to look ahead. Hwashidu asked when he saw that the girl beside him was slowly in a better mood after eating the candy. Are you very angry? A little, she said honestly. Bei-yunj had never associated Chin-yu with Hwashidu. Hence, when she saw him today, she indeed felt like she had been deceived. After Hwashidu glanced at Bei-yunj through the rearview mirror, he could not help but smile, but his eyes were filled with indulgence. After getting out of the car, Hwashidu had just parked the car when he saw Bei-yunj about to turn around and walk home. He took a few steps forward with his long legs and grabbed Pei Yunja's wrist, pulling her back. At this moment, the moment Pei Yunj turned around, she saw the man suddenly approaching her. His eyes were even darker and his magnetic and lazy voice made the wind by her ears flutter. Do you have a conscience, child? Are you really going to ignore me? Pei Yunj froze for a moment. After that, Hushido bent his long legs and knelt on one knee. His warm and dry palm was still holding her wrist. The man looked up at her, his pale-colored eyes smiling carelessly as he coaxed her intimately and naturally. Yunyun. His voice was dragged out and the corners of his upturned eyes were even more seductive. His low and indulgent tone was so ambiguous that it made one's heart race. Can I beg for mercy? This scene was so suave that it made people unable to control themselves. Even Pei Yunja's heart almost skipped a beat. Wasn't this man too good at coaxing people? Hushido did not explain anything just now. He only said that they had met by chance at the hospital and bar. However, he did agree to Qin Yu's request later on. Hearing this, Pei Yunja's anger had already subsided. After all, she was not someone who would cause trouble for herself. The two of them returned to the hall. The man handed the paper bag to Pei Yunj. Qin Yu left it behind just now. Pei Yunj looked at the bear in the paper bag, and her eyes twitched uncontrollably. Seeing that she did not take it, Hushido chuckled. Do you dislike it that much? Not really. Pei Yunj mentally prepared herself and took the paper bag and the teddy bear in it. It's just not very suitable. Hearing this, the man chuckled and looked at her with interest. Qin Yu knows that you have insomnia. He said, you like to hug this to sleep. Pei Yunj, nonsense. However, when Hushido saw this, he playfully scratched Pei Yunja's chin and smiled happily and frivolously. Don't worry, Yunyun. I will pretend that I didn't see anything. No one will laugh at Yunyun. Pei Yunj smiled at him. Brother, you're smiling. I see. The man's eyes were clear and cold, but at this moment, he lowered his voice and laughed. His posture was lazy and sexy. But brother will smile whenever he sees Yunyun. Pei Yunj was speechless. Soon, Pei Yunj went upstairs with this teddy bear that did not match her aura. Sitting by the bed, Pei Yunj looked at the bear she had placed on the bedside table. Actually, the teddy bear was quite cute. Its brown and soft short fur made people want to touch it. It was silly and cute. Pei Yunja's eyebrows moved. Then, she looked away and tried her best to ignore it. At the same time, there was also a storm of blood online. Because Qin Yu was involved in the topic, the top 3 headlines were all occupied. P.S. I owe you an update and will publish it at noon at the latest. Old Su was even more unhappy. For example, this chapter took more than 2 hours to write. However, he would return what he owed and would not go back on his word. Chapter 97. Hashtag Qin Yu, second young master of the Qin family. Hashtag Qin Yu picking someone up. Hashtag Qin Yu hugging. Hashtag. The first 3 terms all avoided Pei Yunja's name, as if they were afraid of repeating the same mistake. It was enough to see how hard everyone was working online. However, because the development of reality was too far from their imagination, there was a lot of discussion. Did I just get online? Qin Yu is the second young master of the Qin family. Sob, he's indeed a man who doesn't work hard and wants to go home to inherit the family assets. Didn't they say that the Qin brothers are all around Qin Youjiao? I don't think this photo looks like it, I don't know anything else. It said that the bear in Brother Yu's hand was given to Miss Pei and was cruelly rejected. Miss Pei is such a ruthless woman, ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha, I know how to answer this question. Brother Yu even said that the bear wants to protect his little princess. This is my first time seeing this D*MN man flirt. How strange. Am I the only one who paid attention to Miss Pei's face? F*CK, she can debut with her face. Sister, I can. Let's be honest. Some time ago, Miss Pei was exposed by a certain fan and was crazily comparing her to a certain princess. It's obvious that it's malicious. TSK, what a good dog of the main character. The topic of the Qin siblings was very popular. What made people want to laugh even more was that everyone online was afraid of them and didn't even dare to mention the words Bei Yunj. However, there were also some fans who were still angry and started to mock and ridicule them. Jiao Jiao is practicing the piano and Mrs. Qin is accompanying her. Don't cue little Princess Qin. Everyone should pay more attention to the work and my Jiao Jiao's tour. Some people are really funny. When our Jiao Jiao fans speak, they are malicious. If we don't speak, we can't win. In the comments section. Let go of my Jiao Jiao. My Jiao Jiao doesn't fight for anything and relies on her abilities to attract fans. Don't spread rumors about the relationship between siblings. Who doesn't love little fairy Jiao Jiao? How doted can a newcomer be? Besides, if it was me, I would prefer a talented sister like Qin Youjiao. In less than half an hour, Qin Youjiao's fans and passers-by started to control the comments. They even tried to pull Qin Yu's fans into a united front. However, Qin Yu's fans were smart. After all, they were both Qin Yu's sisters. There was no need for them to get involved in this mess. So, gradually. Because Bei Yunj didn't have a fan base on the internet, Qin Youjiao's fans soon filled the internet with comments and mocked Bei Yunj. However, in the end, to everyone's disbelief, in less than an hour, all the posts about Bei Yunj were deleted. Everyone was shocked. Is Bei Yunj the daughter of this social media app? In the past, which artist or amateur had the system help to delete the post after it was put on the headlines? A few days ago, the social media app publicly apologized, saying that there was a problem with the system. What about this time? Every time there's a problem, it's to help Bei Yunj delete the posts. Did he think they had cerebral palsy? Many people felt indignant and directly at the software administrator, hoping for an explanation. But in the end, no matter how many messages they left, those administrators seemed to be selectively blind. None of them replied. The internet was in full swing and Bei Yunj tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. In the end, Bei Yunj couldn't help but lift the quilt. She went out to get a glass of warm water and returned to the room. A few minutes later, Bei Yunj and the teddy bear on the bedside table looked at each other. Chapter 98. Because Hu Shidu had not entered this bedroom for a long time, his scent in the room was much fainter. Bei Yunj also gradually felt that the quality of her sleep was decreasing. In fact, in the middle of the night, she even believed Qin Yu's words, the little bear helped her sleep. Bei Yunj looked at the little bear on the bedside table and her mind gradually emptied. Should she take it? This stupid bear seemed to be quite cute. However, moments later, Bei Yunj suddenly realized that she was having some delirious thoughts. I'm going crazy. There was some impatience in her bright eyes as she placed the glass of water in her hand on the table. Taking a few steps forward, Bei Yunj lifted the blanket and fell asleep on the bed. 10 minutes later. Under the light gray blanket, a cold and fair wrist reached out and grabbed the little bear's little hand accurately, pulling it into the blanket. The next day, Bei Yunj was in good spirits. After washing up, she was ready to go downstairs. However, she did not expect Stephen to call her at this moment. After Bei Yunj answered the call, she asked, Mr. Stephen, what's wrong? Did something happen? Miss Pei. It's like this. I might not be able to leave our nation for the next few days. Your grandfather's surgery might have to be delayed for a while. After Stephen finished speaking, the person on the other end of the line did not speak. He immediately panicked. Miss Pei, I'm really sorry. Something happened in our medical institute, so we were forcefully banned from leaving. What's wrong? Bei Yunj asked. Stephen took a deep breath and said, unreasonable patients are the most troublesome to doctors no matter where they are. Bei Yunj roughly heard the reason from Stephen. Actually, it was just a patient with status. He was weak to begin with and did not listen to the doctor's strict preoperative rules. As a result, the surgery failed in the end. In a fit of anger, the family deliberately blew up the matter. It attracted public opinion from all walks of life, causing their medical institute to be suspended. Bae Yunj asked, "Can you solve it?" "Of course." Stephen chuckled. "This isn't the first time this has happened, but it's indeed more serious than before. I dislocated that family member's arm and he's still lying in the hospital. No wonder he was forbidden from going out. But don't worry, Miss Pei. Your grandfather's physique is much better than his peers. I'll go to your place as soon as possible. I won't let anything happen to your grandfather." "Thank you." Bae Yunj responded. After the conversation, Bae Yunj hung up the phone and prepared to go downstairs for dinner. "Miss Yunj, good morning." The moment Aunt Meow saw Bae Yunj, her gaze became overly gentle. Bae Yunj did not notice the way she was looking at her young madam. She sat at the dining table and asked, "Auntie Meow, is this your new dish?" "Yes, it's very refreshing. Mr. Hu said that you would definitely like it, so he asked me to prepare it especially for you." Aunt Meow chuckled. "Where's my brother?" Bae Yunj noticed that Huashidu had not had breakfast with her for the past 2 days. "You're busy with the company. Before you came, Mr. Hu rarely ate at home." Aunt Meow scooped a bowl of porridge for Bae Yunj and said to herself. Hearing this, Bae Yunj's eyes darkened, but she didn't say anything. Last night, Bae Yunj received a notice from the school. Today, the top computing institute in the country was going to visit Hengda High School at noon and ask them to pay attention to their attire. Chapter 99. Cheng Zihuai and Qin Youjiao appeared at the door. The students who had entered the school could not help but steal glances at the handsome man and beautiful woman with envious expressions. This couple was simply the face of the school. A good-looking top student. Suddenly, the dean at the side noticed Bae Yunj and a trace of disgust flashed past his eyes before he glanced at his watch. "Bae Yunj, do you know what time it is? Is your watch broken?" Bae Yunj asked casually and left. Instantly, the dean's face darkened and the taste of blood surged in his throat. He had been teaching for more than 10 years and had never met a student as difficult to discipline as Bae Yunj. This scene was also seen by Cheng Zihuai and Qin Youjiao. Qin Youjiao looked at Cheng Zihuai secretly. Seeing that his face was expressionless and his eyes were filled with ridicule and disdain, she heaved a sigh of relief. Then, Cheng Zihuai sneered disdainfully. "How can the Qin family like such a person? Jiao Jiao, she's not even qualified to compare to you." With that said, Cheng Zihuai did not want to waste time on Bae Yunj. Instead, he returned to class first and planned to study the computing book written by old Mr. Zhong. After all, Zhong Xinglin was the only person in the country who could be as famous as Marcus from our nation in the computing field. However, Cheng Zihuai was also in disbelief. He did not expect the A.M. Institute of Computing Technology, which had always been low-key and cold, to come to their high school. What a pleasant surprise. In Class 7's classroom. It was only then that Bae Yunj realized that there was no one in the class. It seemed like everyone had gone to the conference room. It should be for the A.M. Institute of Computing. She raised an eyebrow. She did not expect everyone to be so positive about the A.M. Institute of Computing. Then, just as Bae Yunj put down her bag and was about to leave, her phone rang. It was a call from Marcus. Bae Yunj's beautiful eyes moved, but she answered the call. "What's wrong?" "Guher, did that old man Zhong Xinglin go to your school?" Marcus was furious. He did not expect this Zhong Xinglin to be so shameless. In order to poach his members, he even went to the high school to look for them. "Maybe. I heard that the A.M. Computing Institute is here." Bae Yunj thought for a moment. He will definitely come. This old man was really good at poaching people. When you see that strange old man later, you must ignore him." Marcus couldn't suppress his anger, but the next second, Bae Yunj heard Marcus say pitifully, "I'm sorry." We just signed the contract. You should at least finish what's in the bowl before looking at what's in the pot. Our institute is much more generous than A.M. Bae-yunj. I don't plan to join A.M., that's good. Marcus heaved a long sigh of relief and said, by the way, we have a habit of taking care of interns. According to the rules, you can choose 2 interns to help. Intern. Bae-yunj's eyebrows twitched unconsciously, and then the corners of her eyes slowly curled up. In his previous life, Bae-yunj almost took care of students in school, but she was vetoed by her mother. She could only fish in troubled waters in school and do scientific research. However, Mother Pei could not be blamed for being ruthless. As early as when Bae-yunj was 14 years old, she was famous for being difficult to restrain. She remembered that once, the son of the dean next door had secretly lifted the skirt of Bae-yunj's deskmate and made the little girl cry in anger. Chapter 100. After finding out about this, Mrs. Pei brought Bae-yunj to apologize to the director. After all, it was wrong to hang someone on a tree. However, when the director found out that Bae-yunj was the one who had punished his son, he immediately went home with a black face and punished his son. If that girl, Bae-yunj, injured her head, this brat could go and meet his ancestors too. After this incident, Mrs. Pei realized that the teachers in the school treated Bae-yunj like a treasure and spoiled her to the point where she could do whatever she wanted. If Bae-yunj continued to teach students, wouldn't she be leading them astray? However, it was obvious that Marcus was very confident in Bae-yunj. He even chuckled. Yes, don't worry. The interns are all postgraduate students in our nation. They won't cause you any trouble. However, can I ask you for a favor? What is it? Bae-yunj raised her eyebrows. I have a little niece who is also in Yuncheng. She is a computer science student at Yuncheng University. Can you help me teach her when you have time? Marcus was a little nervous. After all, Bae-yunj had rejected the young master of the Cheng family in Yuncheng without even looking at him. You want me to teach your little niece? Bae-yunj raised her eyebrows. This little brat is usually very fierce. She always throws tantrums at me and refuses to learn from me. Upon hearing this, Bae-yunj smiled faintly. Marcus, do you think I have a good temper? It was indeed too dangerous to put 2 barrels of gunpowder together. Suddenly, Marcus thought of a compromise. His eyes lit up. If she is willing to learn from you, can you teach her? Okay. Bae-yunj said casually. She had troubled Marcus so much. It was okay for her to teach a student for Marcus. Marcus heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. After hanging up the phone, Bae-yunj had just left the classroom when she stopped in her tracks. She lowered her head and saw a spot of blood on the ground. Her gaze turned gloomy and she slowed down her footsteps again. When she reached the corridor by the stairs, Bae-yunj heard some movement. Her eyes flashed and she walked closer to the source of the sound. At the end of the long corridor. Fatty, you're still smoking. I didn't expect that. The boy's ear-piercing voice. He was up to no good. Bae-yunj looked up and saw a familiar figure. Chu Zhixing's face was bruised and swollen. He protected the things in his pocket and gasped for air. He was drenched in cold sweat. What are you protecting? Take it out. The boy stepped forward, grabbed Chu Zhixing's hair, and slammed him against the wall. He then went to snatch the things in his pocket. But he realized it was just a hair tie. However, those who knew about luxury goods would realize that the price of this rubber band was 3,000 to 4,000 yuan on the official website. Hair. Damn Fatty, you can't be thinking of giving it to some girl, right? With your looks, which girl would accept your rubber band? The boy mocked him. These words made Chu Zhixing purse his lips. His voice was a little hoarse. It's none of your business. Oh, you're tough now. Chu Zhixing, have you forgotten how you spent your junior high school days? The boy approached Chu Zhixing and laughed cruelly and deliberately in his ear. You're the dog I can hit if I want to. Even if you get into Hengda, I can still deal with you. These words made Chu Zhixing's eyes turn red. He recalled how this boy tortured him in junior high school. Chapter 101. Seeing Chu Zhixing's humiliated look, the boy casually threw the rubber band away. Hu Ji. Chu Zhixing seemed to have reached the point of anger. He looked at him fiercely and his entire body was trembling. It's useless to you even if you keep it. Also, I'll ask you again, do you have money? Hu Ji grabbed Chu Zhixing's collar and smiled brightly, but he was doing cruel things. Suddenly, a clear voice sounded from the side. The rubber band looks pretty good. Bei Yunj held the rubber band and looked at it. When Hu Ji heard the voice, he subconsciously turned his head. When he saw Bei Yunj's face clearly, his eyes were filled with infatuation. But soon, a smile appeared on his face and he pretended to be generous. You like it? Then I'll give it to you. Bei Yunj walked to Chu Zhixing's side and teased him with a smile. Little Chu, are you giving it to me? Yes, Chu Zhixing subconsciously said in a low voice. Thank you. Bei Yunj put the rubber band on her slender white wrist and lazily curved her beautiful eyes. She had no idea how expensive this rubber band was. At this moment, the scene of Bei Yunj talking to Chu Zhixing as if she didn't see it made Hu Ji's face darken, as if he had been humiliated. Such a beautiful girl. So you know her, Chu Zhixing. Hu Ji sneered and turned to look at Chu Zhixing. Why don't you introduce her to me? As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Zhixing suddenly raised his head and stared at Hu Ji. His heart was filled with anger. In fact, before junior high school, Chu Zhixing wasn't so fat and was still very popular with girls. But it wasn't until he was diagnosed with an illness and began to be injected with medicine that he began to gain weight. Then, after entering junior high school, he became isolated. Because he was antisocial and too fat. And this boy was the one who took the lead to tease him. However, because Hu Ji's grades weren't good and his family's conditions weren't good, he dropped out of school very early. Suddenly, Bei Yunj's red lips curled up. Chu Zhixing, can you protect me? Hearing this, Chu Zhixing's body froze. But before she could think, she saw Hu Ji reach out to touch Bei Yunj's face. Bei Yunj's posture was relaxed. She didn't move, but her beautiful eyes were slightly raised. His hand was about to touch Bei Yunj's face. In an instant, Chu Zhixing's mind exploded. He pounced forward and fiercely punched Hu Ji, causing him to groan in pain. Chu Zhixing, are you F***king looking for death? This was the first time Hu Ji had been hit by Chu Zhixing. His eyes were filled with disbelief and anger. But in the next moment, Chu Zhixing grabbed him by the collar. His deep eyes were filled with hostility as he punched him with all his might. Hu Ji didn't have the strength to resist at all. He was in so much pain that his whole body was trembling. His brows were tightly furrowed, and fear gradually appeared in his eyes. Was this Chu Zhixing crazy? After reacting, Hu Ji was afraid. Chu Zhixing, I was wrong. I won't bother you anymore. Can you let me go? Chu Zhixing's movements suddenly stopped. But in the next moment, his cold voice sounded in Hu Ji's ears, making his scalp tingle. Whoever touches her will die. After saying that, Chu Zhixing held his neck and pressed him against the wall. Then, he punched Hu Ji's abdomen fiercely again. Hu Ji was in despair. A thought appeared in his mind. If this continued, he would die at the hands of this madman sooner or later. He really didn't expect Chu Zhixing to have such a side to him. Chapter 102. Chu. Every time Hu Ji wanted to speak, he was beaten by Chu Zhixing until he howled in pain. Not long after, Hu Ji was lying on the ground on the verge of death. Seeing this, Bei Yunj was about to step forward when she saw Chu Zhixing suddenly lose his balance and faint. Before Chu Zhixing fainted, Bei Yunj held him up. Seeing that Chu Zhixing's face was slightly pale, but he didn't look like he was in pain, she first helped him sit on the ground. When Hu Ji saw Chu Zhixing faint, he sneered and forced himself to stand up. His eyes were filled with coldness and hatred. "Damn fatty, how dare you hit me? See if I don't teach you a lesson." Suddenly, before Hu Ji could finish speaking, he saw the girl, who was not aggressive at all just now, turn her eyes to him. In the depths of her beautiful eyes, there was a coldness that made one's back turn cold. Bei Yunj stood up and walked towards him. She directly grabbed Hu Ji's hair and dragged him inside. Her smile was too beautiful, and the danger in her eyes grew. "Was this how you dragged him just now?" Hu Ji was in so much pain that his scalp was about to be torn off. He suddenly realized that this girl was the devil. Bei Yunj threw him to the ground and stepped on his chest. The strength of her foot gradually increased. It made Hu Ji feel that his ribs were about to be broken by her. It was so painful that he couldn't think. The veins on his forehead bulged, and his body broke out in cold sweat. At this moment, Bei Yunj bent down and patted his face. "Are you that powerful, classmate? Did you bully our little Chu all day long in the past?" The girl's voice was casual and clear, but in Hu Ji's ears, it was like a death sentence. Ear-piercing screams of pain sounded in the corridor. When Bei Yunj was about to stop, the dean's angry voice sounded from the side. "Bei Yunj, what are you doing?" He quickly walked in front of Bei Yunj, as if he could finally find trouble with Bei Yunj. "Hitting someone in school. Let's see how this Bei Yunj can quibble this time." Unexpectedly, Bei Yunj glanced at him and chuckled. Her eyes were bright and unbridled, and her tone was full of mockery. "Fight? What am I doing?" For a moment, the dean's face turned red and he was speechless. He looked at Bei Yunj in disbelief. "Punishment or reflection, teacher?" Bei Yunj asked slowly. The dean laughed coldly. Now that he had gotten hold of Bei Yunj's weakness, he would not let it go. "Punishment or self-criticism? I'm telling you, back off." Halfway through his words, another voice suddenly sounded. "Bei Yunj, come here and help me move the materials." This was the physics teacher, Zhao Yi, who had previously made Bei Yunj copy as a punishment. The dean's face darkened. "Teacher Zhao, this student got into a fight in school and is lying on the ground." When Teacher Zhao Yi heard this, he walked closer and looked at Hu Ji on the ground. Then, he asked Bei Yunj, "Are you that good?" Bei Yunj smiled modestly. "It's all right." When the dean heard this conversation, his face was so dark that it could drip ink. Teacher Zhao Yi. If it weren't for Teacher Zhao Yi's high teaching standards and was especially liked by the principal, he would have scolded him if he was a new teacher. "Oh. What's going on with Chu Zhixing?" Teacher Zhao Yi was still talking, but when he saw that his student, Chu Zhixing, had fainted, he immediately called 120. The dean's face was ugly, and he didn't know what to say for a moment. Chapter 103. Bei Yunj, do you really think that you can be the daughter of a wealthy family in peace just because you've been acknowledged as one? The dean laughed coldly. "We're both from the same family. Don't you think you're too different from Qin Youjiao?" With that said, Bei Yunj slowly looked up and stared at him with an unreadable gaze. Bei Yunj is very smart. Zhao Yi, who was in the same office, could not help saying. "Teacher Zhao Yi." The dean's expression was dark as he looked at Zhao Yi. "I don't know why you chose her to be your class representative. But Bei Yunj has only been in school for a short while and she's already caused so much trouble. Look at her actions. She's clearly rotten to the core. When she enters society in the future, she'll be the scum of society." Instantly, Zhao Yi's expression darkened. "Dean, do you know what you're saying?" The dean had long been unhappy with Zhao Yi and his tone was cold. "Teacher Zhao, since you're only a teacher, there are some things that you don't have to care about." With that said, before Zhao Yi could continue speaking, the principal's voice sounded from outside the door. What the hell is going on? Why did an ambulance come to our school? The principal rushed over from the lecture hall to understand the situation. Seeing this, the dean took the opportunity to complain. Principal, Bei Yunj from Year 2 Class 7 has repeatedly hit people in school. This time, she even beat someone up until there's not a single piece of skin on them. Hearing Bei Yunj's name, the principal's expression darkened even more. Her again? Why was she the one who committed all the crimes? This was even more frequent than Lu Unc. However, the principal glanced at the Computing Institute members who had followed him. After seeing Cheng Zihuai and Qin Youjiao, he could only take a deep breath. Okay, this matter will be investigated clearly. I'll arrange for someone to get the video. As for Bei Yunj, stay here and wait. With that said, the principal greeted the slightly older man beside him and turned to leave the office. If he had known that Bei Yunj was so ignorant and incompetent, he would not have let Bei Yunj step into Hengda even if he did not want the building donated by the Qin family. Now, Bei Yunj was causing trouble and was seen by one of the top computing companies in the country. What an embarrassment to Hengda. After the principal left, the office was silent. The dean glanced coldly at Bei Yunj and returned to his seat. The young man walked up to Zhong Xinglin and looked at Bei Yunj curiously. Is she Bei Yunj? Who would have thought that their first meeting would be so awkward? Zhong Xinglin was also a little hesitant. Are you Bei Yunj? Hearing this, Bei Yunj turned her face to the side. She was beautiful and eye-catching. She raised her eyebrows lazily and looked unruly. She pulled on her name tag but did not say anything. Zhong Xinglin lowered his gaze and looked over. Senior 2 Class 7, Bei Yunj. He really didn't find the wrong person. At this moment. Seeing this, Cheng Zihuai and Qin Youjiao could not help feeling suffocated. How did a person like Zhong Xinglin know Bei Yunj? With Bei Yunj's status, she would not be able to reach old Mr. Zhong even if she had 100 steps. Suddenly, Cheng Zihuai's tone was sharp. Bei Yunj, don't you like computing too? Have you read Marcus books? Don't tell me you don't know Mr. Zhong Xinglin. Bei Yunj, who was already in a bad mood, did not stand on ceremony when she saw someone asking for trouble. She sneered lazily. Student Cheng, you seem to know everyone. Are you a social butterfly? Chapter 104. Instantly, the atmosphere fell into a strange silence. Cheng Zihuai's face turned green and red. He wished he could break Bei Yunj's neck on the spot. The young man coughed lightly. He didn't expect Miss Pei's personality to be so unique. However, this was really similar to the big boss who helped Bei Yunj collapse the headlines. Suddenly, just as Cheng Zihuai's face was gloomy, Zhong Xinglin suddenly smiled and asked, Student Pei likes computers very much? Coincidentally, we are recruiting students for internships during this period of time. Student Pei, are you willing to come? Zhong Xinglin only treated Bei Yunj as an interesting student with a temper. However, when the others heard this, they were in disbelief. AM was the top computer technology research institute in the country. The interns they usually recruited were also the top graduate students in the country. However, what could an ignorant and incompetent person like Bei Yunj do if she went in? Mr. Zhong, didn't you say that there was only one spot for a student from Hengda? Are you planning to give it to Bei Yunj? Qin Youjiao's expression didn't look good either. She could only ask tentatively. Cheng Zihuai's face was ashen as he clenched his fists. It's fine. Student Pei and I are fated. Zhong Xinglin smiled. He came today for Bei Yunj. He wanted to know who the person who helped Bei Yunj was. As for this person called Cheng Zihuai, he was indeed alright, but he didn't like him. He'd better wait a few more years. I'm sorry, Mr. Zhong. I might not be free. Bei Yunj smiled. She had a good impression of Zhong Xinglin. Are you very busy with your studies? Yes, my grades are at the bottom. Someone at home insisted that I take remedial classes on the weekends. Bei Yunj curled her lips. Hearing this, the young man beside her couldn't help but look at Bei Yunj in shock. Remedial classes on the weekends and her grades were at the bottom? What kind of standard was this? After coming back to his senses, the young man immediately pulled Zhong Xinglin back. Old master, don't delay the girl's college entrance examination. Although this girl was related to that big shot to a certain extent. But even in their computing institute, no one could bring up such a result. Zhong Xinglin felt an inexplicable sense of regret. He felt an indescribable sense of loss. Then, if Student Pei is interested, you can contact me in the future. After that, the elegant and gentle old man took out a brand new business card from his pocket and handed it to Bei Yunj. Seeing this, the head of teaching, who had been watching from the side, widened his eyes. Just now, Mr. Zhong didn't even give his name card to the principal. The person they contacted had always been Mr. Zhong's assistant. But now, old Mr. Zhong had personally handed his business card to Bei Yunj. If it were anyone else, they would be able to brag about it for the rest of their lives. This was Zhong Xinglin, the first winner of the Busaka Computer Award in China. He was also a leading figure in the field of computing, a legend in the hearts of the younger generation of researchers. The expressions of the dean, Qing Zihuai, and Qin Youjiao beside him were especially ugly. Qin Youjiao's face contorted and gradually turned hideous. What right did this Bei Yunj have? Even old Mr. Zhong was so good to her for no reason. In front of everyone, Bei Yunj wouldn't reject Zhong Xinglin's good intentions. She nodded. Thank you, old Mr. Zhong. It's all right. You can bring your friends here to play when you're free in the future. Zhong Xinglin smiled, completely like a kind grandfather next door. Chapter 105. Ha! He knew very well whether he hoped that Bei Yunj would bring a friend or a big shot. Seeing that Zhong Xinglin seemed to be very interested in Bei Yunj and kept looking for topics to chat about, Qing Zihuai's handsome face darkened. He clenched his fists tightly and his eyes were cold. Bei Yunj was really lucky. It was only the first time they met, but old Master Zhong was actually willing to accept Bei Yunj into the computing institute without even considering him. Not long after, the principal returned with an extremely bad expression, but he did not say much. He only told Bei Yunj to pay more attention to her image and to look for the teacher if she had any problems. It was indeed not appropriate to talk about this in front of Zhong Xinglin and the others. He had checked the video. The boy who was beaten looked unfamiliar and was not a student of Hengda. When he appeared at the entrance of the corridor, he was grabbing Chu Zhixing's clothes, and Chu Zhixing was injured. After that, the two of them entered the surveillance blind spot. They did not even need to think to know what the boy was doing to Chu Zhixing. However, what was even more surprising was, not long after, Bei Yunj appeared. She also entered the surveillance blind spot, and they did not know what was going on inside. But about 10 minutes later, the boy was grabbed by the hair by Bei Yunj and suddenly appeared in the surveillance area. He was pinned down by Bei Yunj and taught him a lesson. Her methods were so ruthless that even a middle-aged man like him who had seen the world felt his scalp go numb. However, when they heard the principal say that this matter was resolved just like that, many people felt uncomfortable. The dean of teaching widened his eyes. Principal, Bei Yunj is committing campus violence. How can you indulge her? What nonsense are you talking about? The principal was furious and his face was ashen. Young people from outside sneaked in and harassed our students. As the dean of teaching, you don't know anything and you still have the face to mention campus violence? When the dean of teaching heard this, his face suddenly turned pale. He did not expect that the boy who was beaten up was not from their school. However, he had seen Bei Yunj hit him with his own eyes. There could be no mistake. By avoiding the topic, the principal was obviously trying to protect Bei Yunj, a student with a notorious record. The dean's eyes were filled with resentment and unwillingness, but he did not dare to speak his mind. That's enough. Bei Yunj, you can go back. The principal took a deep breath and massaged his glabella. All right. Bei Yunj was too lazy to look at the dean of teaching next to him. He just said goodbye to Zhao Yi and Zhong Xinglin and left the office. I really have to hand it to her. She's already acting like a tyrant in school. She's the only daughter of the Qin family. Bei Yunj walked in just as the boy in the class finished speaking. As for the crowd who had echoed the boy's words just now, they instantly fell silent. Suddenly, the boy sneered, "What are you afraid of? Are you afraid that someone will bully you because of your master's position?" When he saw that Bei Yunj was ignoring him, he deliberately spoke harshly when Bei Yunj walked past him. Oh, she really thinks she's a rich young lady. She can't even get punished for hitting someone. As soon as he finished speaking. At first, everyone thought that Bei Yunj would swallow her anger. But unexpectedly, Bei Yunj stopped in her tracks. She tugged at her tie lazily and chuckled softly. Before everyone could react, Bei Yunj suddenly turned around and tugged at the tie on her shirt, throwing it at the boy's face. Chapter 106. Inexplicably. The girl closest to her actually felt her heart skip a beat when she saw Bei Yunj's excessively good-looking eyes and unruly appearance. Previously, someone had been discussing in private that Bei Yunj looked classy and sexy in her school uniform shirt and tie. But now, when she saw this person pull off her tie with one hand and throw it at someone's face with her own eyes, she really felt like she was being killed. This person was too amazing. In the entire Hengda High School, Bei Yunj was the first girl who made people feel that she had a special aura even when she was wearing a tie. However, this was also thanks to the boys from the previous cohort. In the past, the boys in Hengda High School wore ties and the girls wore collars. It was only when every cohort had boys snatching girls' pink collars to wear that they were all nondescript that men and women started to wear ties together a few years ago. Looking at Bei Yunj's cold eyes, the boy who had been acting strangely just now did not dare to speak anymore. After that, it was only when Bei Yunj returned to her seat and started playing with her phone that the atmosphere in the classroom eased a little. It was really scary just now. Class 1. Qin Youjiao played the piano in the lecture hall to welcome several researchers from the Computing Institute and was in the limelight again. But at this moment, she was still in a bad mood. Because Bei Yunj had actually gained old Mr. Zhong's favor. Qin Youjiao was doing her homework when she suddenly heard the people beside her discussing. "Did you know that Class 7 almost got into a fight just now?" Someone said softly and excitedly. "Who's in Class 7? Lu Yuanxi or Bei Yunj?" Bei Yunj. She's about to snatch Lu Yuanxi's position as the school bully, isn't she? The person who spoke said mockingly. However, hearing this, another girl said seriously and excitedly, "How can you blame Bei Yunj? It's a boy who had a bad mouth and even did it in front of Bei Yunj. You don't know, but I was sitting in my friend's seat and saw this sister pull off her tie with one hand and throw it at that boy's face. She was so good that my legs turned weak and my heart melted. I've decided. Even if I fall in love early, I can't be too rigid about my gender. Forget it. If they really don't care about their gender, it won't be your turn. Can you shut up?" Qin Youjiao, who had heard the conversation from the side, clenched her fists as her eyes darkened. Even if Bei Yunj was an ignorant and incompetent troublemaker, would there still be people who liked her so much? Suppressing her anger, Qin Youjiao took out her stationery box and opened the small compartment at the bottom. She took out the piece of paper. On it was a string of phone numbers. Taking a deep breath, Qin Youjiao slowly pinched the note in her palm, her eyes filled with coldness and sarcasm. A person who lived in an orphanage and was inferior to her in every way wanted to become the young miss of the Qin family. Wasn't this a joke? In fact, Bei Yunj should not have come back. After all, no matter how hard Bei Yunj tried, there was no way she could beat her. And she would never allow Bei Yunj to make a comeback. The Qin family could only have one eldest miss who was the center of attention. At this thought, Qin Youjiao took the note and the spare SIM card and went to the female washroom. It was the last self-study period. Bei Yunj suddenly received a notification. "Are you the teacher my uncle introduced?" My name is Jian Shi. Bei Yunj knew at a glance that this was Marcus's little niece. From what Marcus said, wasn't she unwilling to find someone to teach her? Why did she find her so quickly? Chapter 107. Bei Yunj found the name familiar, but she still agreed to add it. A few seconds passed. Jian Shi's messages kept popping up. Did you complete the project that Uncle Stephen likes? Teacher, I don't think I've heard of you in the industry. In the dormitory of Yunqing University, a young girl was biting her pen and staring at her phone. She looked beautiful, but she looked a little nervous. Many people would want to be taken in by such a powerful person. The next moment. The moment her phone rang, she looked down and saw Bei Yunj's reply. Yes. Cold and indifferent. It was indeed the style of a big shot. After Jian Shi reacted, she immediately continued typing. Then, how many students does the teacher have? Can you take me in? After sending it, Jian Shi was very nervous. She wondered if Bei Yunj would despise her for her pretentious words. After all, Bei Yunj had already agreed to take her in because of Uncle Marcus. However, she was afraid of causing trouble for Bei Yunj. Fortunately, Bei Yunj replied to her. You're the first. There will be 2 more interns after that. If you're willing, you can. After reading the message, Jian Shi stood up abruptly and jumped around excitedly in the dormitory. Ah! I'm going to lose it. Jian Shi's face was red and she did not look as cold as she did in front of others. She really liked that project. To be able to create such a project, her teacher must be a god. Jian Shi, what's wrong? Her roommate, who was suddenly woken up from her afternoon nap, rubbed her eyes. Jian Shi reacted and coughed lightly. She regained her composure. Sorry, I'm a little excited and nervous. Hearing this, her roommate looked at her in amusement. Yo, you're the first in the computer science department in our first year. You haven't even been excited about competitions or speeches. How can something make you excited? Yunqing University was the best university in the country, and the computer science department was the best. As a student who skipped a grade, Jian Shi became the first in the computer science department and was also an influential figure in the school. I found a professional teacher. Jian Shi's cold face was slightly flushed. Very impressive. I remember. Isn't your Uncle Marcus? Why didn't you look for him? Her roommate asked. However, only she and Jian Shi knew about this in school. Marcus is not powerful, I don't want to look for him. Jian Shi snorted and replied to Bei Yunj's message. It can't be. More powerful than your uncle. Your uncle was nominated for the Busaka Prize this year. Jian Shi raised her eyebrows and started to boast. Of course my teacher is amazing. I feel that she knows everything. How could Jian Shi say something like this in the tone of a brainless fan? This was incredible. Could it be that your teacher is a guy? Is he good looking? Otherwise, how could Jian Shi lose her rationality and spout nonsense? Jian Shi's eyelids twitched. She's a new member of my uncle's computing institute. Moreover, from Marcus's tone, he was obviously more concerned about Bei Yunj than the other members. As expected, she had picked up a treasured teacher. Besides, I'm my teacher's first student. Jian Shi was elated. What a brainless fan. This time, Bei Yunj, who had just left school, suddenly remembered Jian Shi's name. Why did it sound so familiar? Chapter 108. Besides, Bei Yunj still remembered that because Jian Shi lost to Qing Zihuai, she developed special feelings for him and had been paving the way for him silently. However, later on, because Jian Shi and Qin Youjiao had an argument, Qin Youjiao's pregnancy was accidentally affected and Qing Zihuai almost strangled Jian Shi to death. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched and she sent another message to Jian Shi. You must get first place in this computing competition. In the dormitory, Jian Shi, who was still in high spirits, suddenly had a question. How did the teacher know that she was participating in the computing competition? Could it be that her uncle had said it? Jian she did not think too much and replied immediately. Teacher, don't worry. I definitely won't embarrass you. Bei Yunj glanced at it and thought for a moment. After replying, she put her phone back into her pocket. However, then, Bei Yunj heard a voice from the side. Can you help? Something might have happened to my granddaughter. I'm really worried about her. Let me go in and look for her. The security officer was a little impatient. This student has already finished school. She will definitely come out if she's fine. The anxious old lady was wearing simple clothes and holding the apron that she had just taken off. She looked out of place in this private high school. This was a high school for the children of rich families. How many of the students' grandmothers would dress like her? The old lady was also uneasy and could only cover her dirty apron with her hand. However, on closer inspection, there was also mud between her dry fingers. The security officer's eyes were filled with disdain as he reached out to push her out. Leave, don't get in the way. I think you're here to scam me. I'm not. Please, I'm here to find my granddaughter. The old lady was suddenly pushed by the security officer and lost her balance. Her face was pale and she closed her eyes instinctively. However, she did not expect someone to support her before she fell to the ground. A warm palm held the old lady's arm. Parents can't enter Hongda High School. The coldness in Bei Yunja's eyes made one's scalp turn numb and the smile on her lips was mocking. Of course the security officer knew Bei Yunj and immediately stammered, No. She's not a parent. Are you saying that my grandmother isn't a parent or that I'm not a student of Hongda? Bei Yunja's voice became even colder. At this moment. Only then did the old lady recognize that this beautiful girl was actually her Gu. You. The old lady's expression was agitated, but after a moment, she held her hand nervously. Gu, are you hurt? Are you alright? Listen to Yen. Bei Yunj shifted her gaze from the security guard to the old lady. She was the director of the orphanage where the original owner lived. However, the orphanage couldn't continue operating and the old lady sent away all the children that could be sent away. As for the original owner, who wasn't adopted, the old lady kept her by her side and doted on her as if she was her own granddaughter. Who told you that I'm injured? Bei Yunj asked casually as she took out a wet wipe from her pocket and held the old lady's hand to wipe it carefully. Gu, you're not hurt. After the old lady came back to her senses, she looked guilty. I received a call. The girl said that she was your classmate. She told me that you're injured. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come to find Gu. Chapter 109. Bei Yunj looked up at the old madam and knew what was going on. Other than Qin Youjiao, there was no one else in the entire school who had the old madam's contact number. At this thought, Bei Yunj snorted. Sometimes, this idiot's way of doing things suited her quite well. Ever since Bei Yunj was taken away by the Qin family, the old madam had been hiding from Bei Yunj, afraid that Bei Yunj would be laughed at because of her. Therefore, even the original owner did not have the old madam's contact number. It seemed like this Qin Youjiao had indeed left a lot of backup plans. I'm fine. It should be a prank. Bei Yunj did not want the old madam to worry about her. Hearing this, the old madam froze for a moment before she beamed. It's indeed better to be biological. Look at how well our Yunyun is raised. Bei Yunj's lips curved and she saw a few people secretly taking photos not far away. She blocked the old madam's face quietly. Grandma, let's go and eat. Hearing this, the old madam's body froze and she hurriedly broke free from Bei Yunj's hand. Her voice was hoarse and bitter. Go back to the Qin family early. Grandma still has something to do. Grandma has to go home. Then can you still come and see me? Bei Yunj pulled the old madam's sleeve and shook it gently, looking at her with clear eyes. The old madam's eyes were sore and she could not bear to part with Bei Yunj. She would dream of Bei Yunj when she was young all night, but she could not bear for Bei Yunj to be criticized by others. This child had suffered enough when she was with her. After regaining her senses, the gazes that were looking at her and Bei Yunj shocked the old madam even more, and she planned to turn and leave. But then, Bei Yunj suddenly hugged the old madam's hand and rubbed her exquisite chin against her shoulder intimately. "Grandma, I miss you very much. Can you eat with me?" With that said, the old madam's eyes turned red. The Qin family still let you interact with Grandma?" The old madam had seen Mrs. Qin before and she did not seem to have a good temper. However, she was very loving to her adopted daughter. Come to think of it, he wouldn't treat her badly. Upon hearing this, Bei Yunj suddenly remembered that Mother Qin had warned Bei Yunj that if she ever met old Madam Qin in private in the future, she would sever ties with her. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and smiled. "What are you afraid of? Even if the Qin family doesn't support me, Grandma is still around, isn't she?" When the old lady heard this, she gently patted her hand and said angrily, "How many years can I live? What will you do after I leave?" This girl was simply disobedient. At the very least, the Qin family could ensure that she didn't have to worry about food and clothing. Suddenly, Bei Yunj's phone vibrated. When she answered the call, the man's deep voice sounded. "Where is it? The driver said he couldn't find you." Seeing that Huashidu was calling, Bei Yunj said, "Brother, I'm not going back today. I want to accompany my grandmother." Huashidu remembered that Bei Yunj's biological grandmother had long passed away. The person Bei Yunj was talking about should be Director Lin, who had taken care of Bei Yunj in the past. This child probably still did not know that the director of the orphanage who had raised her used to have a doctorate in biology. However, the experimental fees and patent fees that she had earned had all been donated. She lived a poor life and even used all her savings to open an orphanage. "Are you going to eat?" he suddenly asked. Bei Yunj was stunned. "Yes. Let the driver send you guys. I'll look for you later." As soon as he finished speaking. Chapter 110. Huashidu did not seem like a leisurely person who could accompany her to meet her grandparents every 2 to 3 days. However, after the chat, Bei Yunj said to the old madam, "Grandma, the driver is still waiting over there. Let's go over." "Okay." The old madam glanced at the luxury car and felt that the Qin family seemed to be richer than she had imagined. After getting into the car, the driver, Uncle Chen, smiled and said, "Miss Pei, Assistant Sung just informed me to send you to the restaurant." "Sorry to trouble you, Uncle Chen." Bei Yunj nodded. Uncle Chen grinned. "Miss, you're too polite." The school was not far from the restaurant and it was not the one she went to with Qin Yu last time. Along the way, Bei Yunj could tell that the old madam was a little uneasy. She chatted with the old madam from time to time to make her gradually relax. 20 minutes later, Bei Yunj brought the old madam to the front desk of the restaurant. However, before Bei Yunj could ask, an arrogant voice suddenly sounded from the side. "Quick, get me the best room." "I'm sorry, miss, but all the private rooms have been reserved," the receptionist revealed a professional smile. "Excuse me, miss, do you have a reservation?" Cheng Shuyuan probably did not expect to encounter such a thing and her expression was a little ugly. Today, she had said that she would open a private room here and treat her friends to a meal. But now, she could not book a private room. In the next moment, before Cheng Shuyuan could speak, Bei Yunj's voice interrupted her thoughts. "Excuse me, how do I get to room 307? When the receptionist heard the number of the private room, a trace of surprise flashed past her eyes before it turned into an even more respectful gaze. "It's on the 3rd floor, the room on the far right." "Miss, if you can't find a private room, I can get someone to bring you there." With that said, the receptionist looked at Bei Yunj with a respectful and careful gaze. The boss basically did not let guests enter room 307. Most of the people who could use this private room were the boss's distinguished friends. She never thought that one day, she would see a young girl and a plainly dressed old lady enter that VIP room with her own eyes. "No need, thank you." After Bei Yunj finished speaking, she wanted to leave with the old lady, but she didn't expect to be stopped. Bei Yunj? It's you. Qing Shuyuan had been staring at Bei Yunj just now. She always felt that Bei Yunj looked familiar, but she didn't remember seeing such an outstanding girl. But soon, Qing Shuyuan's eyes widened in disbelief. This was actually Bei Yunj. The Bei Yunj who had been pestering her cousin, Qing Zihuai. Thinking of this, a trace of disgust appeared in Qing Shuyuan's eyes. How could this woman be worthy of Zihuai? She was too far away from Yu Jiao. He was simply overestimating himself. Who are you? Bei Yunj's reply was concise and comprehensive. It was obvious that she didn't want to bother with him. You're asking who I am? Qing Shuyuan's expression changed and she sneered. This Bei Yunj was really good at pretending. When she pestered Zihuai, she pretended to be pitiful every day. When she saw Qing Shuyuan, she was like a mouse that had seen a cat. But now, Bei Yunj had entered such a high-class restaurant and was pretending not to know Qing Shuyuan? Did she really think that she was the daughter of the Qin family? At this moment, Bei Yunj looked at Qing Shuyuan. After a while, she asked, "You're Qing something?" Chapter 111. Bei Yunj really didn't remember this person. Some time ago, she often had dreams from the original owner's perspective and had a rough understanding of the things and people that the original owner had experienced. However, Bei Yunj really didn't have any impression of the person in front of her. She seemed to be Qin Youjiao's best friend in the circle. She was also Qing Zihuai's cousin. Suddenly, Qing Shuyuan gritted her teeth. Bei Yunj, how dare you humiliate me? She actually pretended that she didn't even remember her name. Gu, this is. Old Madam frowned and instinctively shielded Bei Yunj behind her. I'm not familiar with her, Bei Yunj said calmly. Hearing this, Old Madam looked at Qing Shuyuan and said gently, do you know Gu, her? Qing Shuyuan glanced at Old Madam and the disgust in her eyes intensified. She sneered and said harshly, you took the Qin family's money and brought your grandmother to such a high-class restaurant? I didn't expect Bei Yunj to be so filial. As soon as she finished speaking, Bei Yunj's expression didn't change, but Old Madam's face turned pale when she heard these sarcastic words. Classmate, you've really misunderstood. Qing Shuyuan glanced at Old Madam in disgust and took a step back. Misunderstood? I was there when Mrs. Qin said those words, so I heard it loud and clear. After speaking, Qing Shuyuan looked at Bei Yunj provocatively. Mrs. Qin said that as long as you contact the person who raised you before, she will sever your mother-daughter relationship with you. Bei Yunj, you can't deny this, right? Suddenly, these words were like a bomb that exploded in Old Madam's mind. She quickly broke free from Bei Yunj's hand. She begged, Miss, don't tell Mrs. Qin about this. I'll leave now. Don't tell Mrs. Qin. This child didn't bring me here on purpose. I insisted on following her. I'll leave now, okay? Hearing this, Qing Shuyuan rolled her eyes and still looked arrogant. She was indeed used to living a poor life. She still wanted to rely on Bei Yunj to live a good life. Sure, let your granddaughter beg me. I'll pretend that I didn't see it. Qing Shuyuan purposely said. The old lady's expression changed and she nervously wiped her hands. Miss, can I beg you? Gu, Before old Madame Yang could finish, Bei Yunj grabbed her shoulders and spoke in a leisurely tone. Let her speak. Sever ties with Mother Qin. He couldn't ask for more. However, when Qing Shuyuan saw Bei Yunj's attitude, her face turned red with anger. Bei Yunj. Since that's the case, what right do you have to use this room? Didn't Bei Yunj want to cut ties with Mrs. Qin? She remembered that Qin Youjiao also had a card for this restaurant. It was given to her by Mrs. Qin. Bei Yunj was able to book a private room this time because she had a membership card from Mrs. Qin. What does it have to do with you? Bei Yunj glanced at her and quickly decided to go upstairs. Seeing this, Qing Shuyuan bit her lips, her eyes filled with unwillingness. She turned to look at the front desk and pointed at Bei Yunj. The card in this woman's hand doesn't belong to her at all. You're letting her book this? The receptionist froze for a moment and could only brace herself to ask Bei Yunj, Miss, can you let me see your card? I don't have a card. Bei Yunj stopped in her tracks and said slowly. You don't have a card? Qing Shuyuan's tone was sharp. Chapter 112. Seeing that Qing Shuyuan did not even care about her manners and wanted to see her make a fool of herself, Bei Yunj suddenly felt that it was very familiar. She remembered. This was the female supporting lead, Qing Shuyuan. In the original novel, she was completely a gun that would shoot wherever Qin Youjiao pointed. She had removed many obstacles for Qin Youjiao. The private room is opened by my friend. I came early. Bei Yunj glanced at the front desk calmly. The receptionist froze unconsciously and felt inexplicably terrified. Then, before the receptionist could speak, Qing Shuyuan said mockingly, Nonsense. How can you know friends in the industry? Did you secretly come to find a sugar daddy because you know that you can't live well in the Qin family? The moment she finished speaking, everyone could not help but look at Bei Yunj suspiciously. At this moment, the old madam's voice turned cold. Miss, you're spreading rumors. You can be sent to the police station. Oh, old madam, how many words do you know? You actually know how to send me to the police station? Qing Shuyuan's tone was full of ridicule and sarcasm. The person who raised Bei Yunj was just a country woman. She must have watched too many television dramas to dare to talk to her like this. Qing Shuyuan. Bei Yunj said slowly. What are you doing? Qing Shuyuan looked at Bei Yunj fearlessly and asked with her chin raised. Bei Yunj took the old madam's hand and smirked, her eyes cold. Apologize to my grandma. Hearing this, Qing Shuyuan found it even more ridiculous. Her expression was disdainful. Ha, apologize? Bei Yunj, did you go to a mental hospital and your brain is damaged? The old madam hurriedly grabbed Bei Yunj's hand, not wanting Bei Yunj to argue because of her. Do you think you can walk out of here if you don't apologize today? Bei Yunj played with the wine glass placed on the front desk. When she raised her eyebrows, a cold glint appeared in her eyes. Qing Shuyuan, who met Bei Yunj's eyes, felt a chill run down her spine. When did this woman's gaze become so scary? However, just as the atmosphere was in a stalemate, another voice rang out from the side, interrupting everyone's thoughts. Bei Yunj, what are you doing? Hearing this, everyone turned around and saw a handsome boy walk up to Bei Yunj with an expressionless face. Cousin. It was as if Qing Shuyuan had seen her savior. She immediately went forward to hold Qing Zihuai's hand and said aggrievedly, Bei Yunj bullied me on purpose. I only said a few words to her, and she threatened me and refused to let me go. What did you say? Qing Zihuai turned to look at her. Qing Shuyuan paused for a moment, then said arrogantly, I'm just telling the truth. Jiao Jiao had already said that she didn't have a membership card for this store. But the moment she arrived, she booked a VIP room. If she wasn't with some shameful person, why didn't she let that person come out and meet us? Of course, Qing Shuyuan didn't dare to say that in front of Qing Zihuai. She could only vaguely remind Qing Zihuai. Why are you interfering with who she's meeting? Not long after, Qing Zihuai's words made Qing Shuyuan's smug face freeze. What was wrong with her cousin today? Why was he blaming her first? Cousin, isn't she fighting with Jiao Jiao for you? I was just angry, so I couldn't help but say a few words. Qing Shuyuan's words made everyone's eyes focus on Qing Zihuai. Chapter 113. When Qing Zihuai felt the gazes of the people around him, his handsome face darkened and anger gathered in his chest. This Bei Yunj was indeed not obedient at all. The Qin family would have a daughter sooner or later and would have to marry him. Although the candidate in his heart was Qin Youjiao, Bei Yunj was still slapping him in the face by attracting so many people. Bei Yunj, do you know how to write clean? Qing Zihuai laughed coldly and turned to mock her. Hearing this, Bae Yunj found it even harder to imagine that he could be the male lead of the original novel with such intelligence. Would she bring her old madam on a date with her sugar daddy openly? However, Bae Yunj only snorted, her overly beautiful eyes filled with ridicule. Cheng Zihuai, when did it become your turn to teach me? In an instant. Cheng Zihuai's expression darkened and Cheng Shuyuan, who was beside him, was in disbelief. Bae Yunj actually spoke to Cheng Zihuai like this. One had to know that Bae Yunj was dead set on Cheng Zihuai back then. She was willing to do whatever Cheng Zihuai said. Good, very good. Cheng Zihuai took a deep breath. He rarely got angry in the past, but ever since Bae Yunj returned to school, his mood would be extremely bad whenever he saw this woman. Did you ask Xu Yuan to apologize to you just now? Cheng Zihuai stared at Bae Yunj with dark eyes and said coldly, she's the eldest young lady of the Cheng family, so I'm afraid she can't. Since Miss Pei has the ability to get a membership card of this restaurant, I'll wait and see how Miss Pei will make Xu Yuan apologize. In this restaurant, even Cheng Zihuai rarely booked a private room upstairs, let alone a VIP room on the 3rd floor. Gradually, the atmosphere in the restaurant was tense. This scene made the receptionist even more anxious, afraid that these people would fight in the restaurant. Oh, didn't Miss Pei get involved with some big shot? You want me to apologize? Sure, let him talk to me. Cheng Shuyuan had a smug look on her face. No matter how powerful Bae Yunj was, could she hit her in front of Cheng Zihuai? She wanted to see how Bae Yunj would be able to handle the situation with Zihuai around. At this moment, Bae Yunj's rosy lips curled up and she was about to speak. But in the next moment, just then, someone's warm palm gently pressed against her head, and a gentle voice sounded from above her head. Brother isn't here, and you're being bullied here. After saying this, everyone subconsciously looked at the man standing behind the girl. The man was wearing an expensive handmade suit, and his eyes were cold and noble. He casually stood beside Bae Yunj. He was still tall and had long legs, and he was so abstinent that it was hard to resist. Cheng Shuyuan stared straight at Huashidu, completely stunned. However, when Cheng Zihuai saw Huashidu, his face turned pale. Wasn't this the man he met at the entrance of the bookstore? Bae Yunj actually knew him. At this very moment, when Bae Yunj heard the voice, she knew who it was without even turning her head. Brother, you're here so early. The coldness in Bae Yunj's eyes dissipated and he looked up at Huashidu. Huashidu responded and handed a black bank card to the front desk with his slender hand. Get you Hanran to prepare a membership card for your restaurant for me. Huashidu's deep and magnetic voice was lazy and indifferent. Otherwise, the next time my child is bullied in your restaurant, I'll blame it on him. Huashidu had been to this restaurant a few times before, but with his status, he didn't need a membership card. Chapter 114. It was obvious that the receptionist recognized Huashidu and her expression changed instantly. Oh okay. Their boss was the young master of the U Corporation. However, when she met this gentleman by chance half a year ago, it was her first time seeing their young master be so polite to someone. Besides, it was obvious that their young master was a little afraid of this person. At the same time, seeing this, Cheng Shuyuan's pretty face paled. She never thought that the man who was related to Bae Yunj would be such a man. In the past, Cheng Shuyuan had always felt that her cousin, Cheng Zihuai, was already an impeccable existence. However, seeing Huashidu in front of her today, it was the first time she felt like she was looking up to him, yet he was unreachable. But how could Bae Yunj approach such a man? Who are you? Cheng Shuyuan's tone was unconsciously nervous. However, the man didn't even look at her. He slowly buttoned up his shirt and walked over to the old lady. Director Lin, I'll settle this for Yunyun. Let's get someone to bring you to the private room first. With that said, Assistant Sin walked towards the old lady and said with a smile, Old madam, don't worry. Miss Yunj will be upstairs soon. Shall I take you there first? Although the old lady did not know who this strange man was, she knew that Huashidu had a noble status and his actions just now were to protect Gu. Okay, then I'll go up and wait for you. The old lady nodded and let assistant Sing help her upstairs. Then, after the old lady left, the man was ready to deal with the remaining people. Sir, who exactly are you? Cheng Zihui felt uncomfortable and was even more unwilling to believe that Bei Yunj knew him. This was the first man who made him feel inferior for no reason. Whether it was Huashida's casual gaze or aura, it made him feel oppressed. You bullied my little girl. Don't you know who I am? Huashida's posture was light and lazy, but it was inexplicably aggressive. The aura of a mature man was both lustful and refined. It could easily make one's legs turn weak. Before Cheng Zihuai's expression could turn ugly, he saw the man suddenly reach out and grab Bei Yunj's shoulder. He effortlessly pulled her over. Bei Yunj subconsciously grabbed the man's suit, and the man's cold fingers pinched her cheeks as a punishment. He leaned closer and said in a low, magnetic voice, "Little kid, you don't know how to bully others, but do you know how to complain to your big brother?" This man's casual indulgence in his words was even more potent than an aphrodisiac, making it hard for her to resist. Bei Yunj stood on her tiptoes and leaned close to the handsome and noble man's ear. She raised her beautiful eyes and looked very charming. How would I know if Big Brother would deal with them or me? Listen to Yen. The man chuckled in a low and hoarse voice. It was pleasant and casual, making people's ears go soft. Her cold, pale-colored pupils were tainted with an ambiguous gentleness. The corners of her upturned eyes were seductive, causing ripples in one's heart. For the first time, Bei Yunj noticed that the man's eyes were like peach blossoms. They only sparkled when he smiled. His light-colored pupils usually made people feel cold and abstinent.